Welcome, everyone, to the Athens-Clarke County City Hall for the final meeting of 2022 here on December 13th. We are here for a special called session, and we're going to begin with a roll call from Clerk Spratland.
Davenport.
Here.
Link. Here. Wright. Denson.
Here.
Poole.
Here.
Edwards.
Here.
Myers.
Here.
Thornton. Hamby.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. All right, first thing I do need to ask for from the body is a motion to amend the agenda. Item number 10, the resolution to approve and authorize the settlement of the claims of GP Enterprises Incorporated was not on the published agenda, so we need to amend this. I've got a motion from Commissioner Hamby and a second from Commissioner Myers to amend the agenda. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? All right, hearing none, motion carries, and so we'll add that as the 10th item on the agenda tonight. All right, next order of business is public input, and this is public input on both old and new business, so all 10 items on our agenda tonight, and the rules of public input are the same as they always are. You will have 3 minutes if you'd like to speak to any item on the agenda. If you would, announce the item to which you're speaking, let us know your name and your place of residence. You will see a light on Clerk Spratland's desk. It is green when you begin speaking, yellow when you have 30 seconds remaining, and red when your 3 minutes has expired, and I'll ask you to take a seat and enjoy the rest of the evening. So would anyone like to speak to any of the 10 items on tonight's agenda? Step right up.
Imagine that. Tony Eubanks, 785 North Polk Street. I don't know the agenda item number, but it's Prince Avenue. I would imagine that you've all got your minds made up and nothing we say is going to change anything, but I did want to point out a couple of things. The main information that I think that you need to consider is on page 3, 4, and 5 of your report from the traffic engineers. Traffic counts are up, actually increased from 14.4 thousand to 16,000 a day. Speed is down from 40 to 37 miles an hour on average. Travel time, midday peak, the maximum increase in travel time was 25 seconds on westbound midday peak, and eastbound PM peak was 27 seconds. It's a different street. It's a completely different street. It's quieter, it's safer. The numbers speak for themselves. I think it's a no-brainer. Now, I do find it unfortunate that the zippers are doing some damage to tires, but that's easily remedied. I noticed at the corners they put the red, the yellow, and black little buffers so that people wouldn't hit the zippers when they were turning. Use those. Great. Problem solved. I also want to address something from the university's letter. They showed pictures of their bus having no clearance between the bus tire and the zippers. The reason I'm down here tonight is I just happened to be behind a UGA bus in my car today. And that photograph that the university submitted is manipulative at best. I was right behind the bus. They had over a foot of clearance before the lines, much less the zippers. So not really buying that argument that they made that their buses can't maneuver on the streets. It is narrower. That's the point. Are there places for improvement? Absolutely. I think that the corner of Pulaski and Prince, eastbound Prince traffic turning onto Pulaski with northbound turning off of Pulaski onto Prince, that's a potential conflict point. I think that can be easily remedied. And the other thing I want to do is I want to thank staff for making adjustments during the trial period. It wasn't like, here, this is what we got. They fixed problems as we went along. But as a longtime resident and longtime advocate for Prince Avenue, it's a different street, it's a better street, and I think it's better for all involved. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tony.
Mr. Mayor, respected commissioners, I'm Peter Norris. I reside at 460 Sunset Drive. I rise in support of agenda item number 8, SPLOST 2018 Project 16, Prince Avenue Corridor Improvements. Earlier this morning, I sent you an email providing a rebuttal to concerns others expressed about the pilot. In summary, I stated A, the pilot project, including lane widths was designed by ACC's expert staff using current best practices and conforms with established standards. Objective analysis conducted as part of the pilot shows that the new configuration has increased throughput of vehicles with only minimal delays. I have personally witnessed emergency vehicles traversing the corridor and noted that traffic was able to get out of the way and allow the emergency vehicles to pass without delay. Additionally, no amount of road engineering can reduce traffic congestion on a game day. While the Zikla zippers were installed according to the manufacturer's recommendation, it's acknowledged that they did cause some unintended damage to vehicles. You'll note in Facts and Issues number 18 of your agenda item that Transportation and Public Works has specified a change to the installation of those markers to eliminate any tire damage. Deep survey results conducted as part of the pilot showed strong support for infrastructure that accommodates all users, pedestrians, cyclists, and transit users. But I'm actually here to talk to you about change. I remember when the Honorable Doc Eldridge sat at the dais, flanked by Charles Carter, Hugh Logan, Marilyn Farmer, Kathy Hord, and others. A group of us petitioned the mayor to include a discussion about Prince Avenue on the agenda. We eagerly distributed postcards encouraging citizens to return them to City Hall to demonstrate support for making Prince Avenue safer. Unfortunately, at that time, we were not successful. In the 2 decades since then, there have been no less than 7 studies and reports concerning Prince Avenue. Each has concluded that changes to Prince Avenue are necessary to increase minimum safety. Over the past 20 years, I have changed. I have grown, mostly around the middle. My hair is now white, but thankfully still attached. I have learned how our government systems work and have provided public input, engaged with citizens in person and via social media, proposed SPLOST funding, and served on public committees. But Prince Avenue has still not changed. Prince Avenue is not a byway for conveyance or commuters. It is a destination containing restaurants, bars, shops, schools and churches, and dozens of other services. I encourage you to support this.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Hello, I'm Byrne Stowns. Do I put this here? I live at 738 Cobb, but I back up to Crystal in Popeyes, and I work at 553, just down from Daily Groceries. I came down tonight to speak in support of the changes to Prince Avenue, which I wholeheartedly support. I think it's a safer street. It's a slower street a little bit, although I didn't mean to time myself coming down tonight, but it took 5 minutes. It normally takes 5 minutes. I didn't go fast. I stopped at the stop signs. I yielded. Actually, you have to take a right onto Prince now, and it's a stop sign instead of a yield, which is good because it prevents the close calls that I've personally had when you're just yielding and you have that blind spot there. So I feel like the changes have been really good. I was very involved. I think I asked, is it okay to go on a second time because I thought of other things, but that survey was really well done. I've taken a lot of bad surveys, online, AI powered or whatever they are. And these were good surveys. These allowed real interaction between people who use the road every day, the street every day, and constructive criticism, and I made some because there are things about it I don't like. But I think on the overall, if what we're trying to accomplish is a more bikeable, walkable, and still, of course, drivable Prince Avenue, I think that we're getting that with this plan. I don't normally even bother with notes, but tonight I decided to make a couple just so I didn't leave anything out. And I am also really indebted and appreciate of the various professionals that y'all have commissioned as the commission to do the work, including the consultants they brought in from North Carolina. They've been incredibly accessible. They've been easy to work with. They've explained things when you have a question. The zippers is the biggest issue to me because it's the thing I've heard a lot about. But I'm told that when you're doing a temporary thing, you have to do some things that are temporary so you can get rid of them in a cost-effective manner, but that they will be replaced probably by some kind of curb material that's much less likely to be run into and therefore blow out your tires. So obviously, you can't really do a temporary thing if you're making it permanent from the get-go. Finally, I would say there was a call in both of those letters for experts to get involved in this. Well, that's always a night, sure. There's the good old days and there's experts to solve our problems. I feel like we've had a lot of really good experts working on this. Some of them are in this room. Some of them are just regular people off the street. Some of them have been working for the consultants or for the county itself. But we've had a lot of expertise on this. We've thrown a lot of really good professional knowledge and expertise in this, and just some vague call for more experts or better experts. Okay, I don't buy it. I do think y'all have done a really good job so far. I know y'all have a lot of tough decisions when you do community service and public service like you are doing. I don't think this is a tough decision. I think this should be a fairly straightforward decision if what we want to do is make a safer, better Prince Avenue. Thank you.
Thank you, Burtis.
Hello. My name is Krisha Ara. I live at 127 Herman Street. I wanted to say a few words about the SPLOST number 16 Prince Avenue Corridor Improvement Project. 50 years ago, I was born on Prince Avenue in Athens General Hospital, and 50 years ago, roads were designed with only cars in mind. Thankfully, much has been learned about road design since then. In 2022, as we have seen on Prince Avenue with this demonstration project, the same amount of pavement can be made safer for all users with a few changes. Road diets have been adopted in cities across the U.S. with positive impact. I've driven my car on Prince at different times a day, along with biking, and in my own experience, the traffic flows well. Overall, it feels like a successful redesign despite many design challenges. Because this is a demonstration project, I'm sure that some issues have been found that will need to be tweaked. Because it's a significant design change, I'm sure there are also people who don't like change. There is comfort in keeping things the same as they were 50 or 75 years ago. But I hope you will decide to move forward with this safer and more inclusive design. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Christian. Would anyone else like to speak to any old or new business item tonight?
Hi, my name is John Wares. I've lived here for 18 years now at 280 Cherokee Avenue in 5 Points. I don't remember all the details on this, but I know that my former commissioner was presented, along with the rest of the commission, to calm the traffic on the stretch of Prince Avenue. So obviously that's what I'm commenting on. This was quite a while back. I can't find the exact details. That commission voted no on traffic calming on Prince. Less than a week later, a pedestrian was hit in this stretch because of the fast traffic and no controls for pedestrians. That's certainly not the only person who's been injured in this part of Prince, where there are amazing restaurants, churches, bars, stores, everything that's already been discussed. This city has hilariously tried asking pedestrians to carry orange flags as they cross Prince. That didn't work either, though there were some good photo ops. I do ride my bike everywhere in this town, and I mean everywhere. I'm also a driver. I know how to negotiate a Kroger parking lot, as do all of us with cars. It's really not hard to accept a slightly slower speed and calmer traffic right around a beautiful and busy downtown area with high pedestrian and bicycle access to the stores and restaurants that are around Prince. And yes, I have also driven in this corridor multiple times since the improvements have been put in, and it wasn't very hard to not hit anything, I am pleased to say. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Good evening.
Hello, my name is Brendan Dula, and I live at 437 South Rock Spring Street here in Athens. And I would like to speak strongly in support of agenda item number 8, the Prince Avenue pilot project. I sent an email to all of you last night. Sorry for the length of that email, but I just wanted to come and speak in support of that project here tonight as well. I was really expecting a little bit more pushback, so I'm really glad to see a lot of people out here supporting it, so I'll try to be quick. I would like to start off by reminding all of you here tonight and to any commissioners-elect watching that this project and road diets in general are primarily a project to improve safety. The project should therefore be judged on whether or not it is increased safety for all users of Prince Avenue. The research is irrefutable on road diets for urban and near urban roadways that reduce traffic speeds, reduce accidents, and save lives. As far as I am concerned, everything else discussed is secondary to the safety of everyone's safety while using Prince. As far as any other concerns you may have around traffic, road width, or any other concerns, it would be easily worked with Transportation and Public Works, who've already done great work on this project, to make minor adjustments to alleviate any issues. Scrapping this project to avoid any minor inconveniences to motorists would make a loud statement to Athenians that their safety is less important than making sure drivers don't add a potential 25 seconds to their commute time. It would quite literally be putting lives at risk to allow motorists to drive faster. It would go against what all traffic safety experts recommend, go against your Vision Zero plan, and frankly, go against common sense. And so I just want to thank you all for your work on this, and that's it.
Thank you, Brendan. Good evening.
Good evening.
Chad will
Hello.
take that.
Hi, Liz DeMarco, 327 Hill Street, and I'm also speaking about number 8, the Prince Avenue, and both, I'm here representing my husband, Tony DeMarco. Both of us submitted letters regarding this, but I did want to come down and just say that we are overwhelmingly in support. We've lived at 2 blocks from the Hill Prince intersection for 22 years, and these changes have been needed for many, many years. So thank you very much. Definitely support.
Thank you, Liz. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. Thanks for hearing our comments tonight. My name is Elizabeth Lyle. I'm at 178 Virginia Avenue. And I agree with others in the community tonight when they say that, you know, as someone who lives right in the area, who drives and walks and is riding bikes, that I feel safer there. And it has really made a really positive impact. I'm seeing upside, but I wanted to emphasize some other upsides that maybe some others haven't talked about, which is, for the first time ever, I have felt safe riding my bike from my neighborhood to the Greenway, to the Firefly Trail. It's going to open up a whole world for people that might not have, I mean, I do have a car, obviously, and a bike rack, but there might be others with disabilities or lack of resources who all of a sudden can ride from their neighborhoods, Normaltown, Buena Vista, Boulevard, and all the in-town neighborhoods. It's going to be access to a whole world that's not safely available to us right now. So I really urge you to do that. And also just look to the future. Not very long from now, there are going to be thousands of people that are going to be riding on the Firefly Trail. And are we going to be welcome people to the Prince Avenue corridor and let people shop and be part of our community? So anyway, that's what I wanted to emphasize. Thank you very much, and I hope you consider that.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Hey, I'm
Good
Chris
evening.
Peterson. How are you? I live at 698 North Pope Street. We are very fortunate to have beautiful Prince Avenue that leads to beautiful downtown. Everyone's on board for making it safer, but we really need to look at the really big picture and make sure that aesthetically it's in line. You know, right now I feel like if you're new to town, all you're going to see is the zippers, which we know are temporary, all the reflective posts. I mean, there's so many wonderful things that can be done. Assuming this project goes through, again, we all know it's great for safety. I live and walk on Prince Avenue all the time, so does my family. I think it's great. But I do want to make sure that people are seeing the architecture, they are seeing the bigger picture, and not just being fully concentrated on these items. So my kind ask is, as it moves forward, assuming it does, let's spend a ton of time, let's make it beautiful, let's make it match, let's make it look as it should. Thanks.
Thank you, Chris. Others who'd like to speak to any old or new business item? Good evening. Thank you,
Hello.
Judd.
Honorable Mayor and Commissioners. I want to speak about item 7. I think this is actually a milestone in our community in terms of the need for affordable housing for certain people. I know it's needed for a lot of people, but in certain neighborhoods and certain areas, they've seen a lot of development, a lot of housing that has been developed, but nothing that has been reachable to them. And so tonight, this here changes that. And I think we should we should celebrate that for the first time in a long time, there will be houses developed for folks who have been left out. And so I just want to say thank you for what you've done. Thank you for working with us closely to make sure that our agency is included, but also other agencies as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Hamlin Jackson. I reside at 690 Nantahala Avenue. I too was born at Athens Regional on Prince Avenue. And I lived on the east side and then moved into 5 Points at about 8. And one of the best things that I remember as a child was being able to ride my bike down to the Birchmore Trail, through Memorial Park, up the hill, back through where there was a little gravel road at the time, could cross over Millage, convince my parents, I was maybe 10 years old, I can cross Millage only in this one place, and I could get to the back of the intramural fields and ride my bike over there. And I think there's tons and tons of evidence and studies. There's a great film called Why We Ride that's about the Netherlands, about how liberating this is for children to have the safety to explore, to build their own confidence, for their parents to give them that responsibility and say, we trust you, you can do this. But they can't do that if they're not safe. And I work with kids, so that's really close to my heart, and I've ridden bikes my whole life. Also, I've lived here for almost my whole life, other than 5 years that I lived in Geneva, Switzerland. Didn't have a car, rode my bike everywhere, worked as a bike messenger. For me, that was equally liberating. I could get anywhere I needed to go on my bike. If not, I could get there on public transport. I could take the train to another city with my bike, get off the train, get wherever I needed to go. This was an amazing thing. When I came back to Athens to visit during those times, I cringed at how few bikes were on the road. It just made that difference so visible to me. And it deeply saddened me in a lot of ways, because this is something I want because I think it's really beneficial for people. So I'm talking about something broader than Prince Avenue, but I also am on Prince Avenue every day, and I see the difference, and it's not perfect. I don't think the blocks damaged any car that didn't hit it. Maybe we need some more driver education. I'm willing to take the risk to ride my bike around town right now, but I don't want it to be a risk, because I want it to be accessible for everyone. And I think this is a really powerful tool not only for combating the climate crisis that we're in, but also for equality, for access, for tourism, for commerce, if you want to put it in those terms. Those aren't my preferred terms, but I do think there's a lot of evidence that is also economically beneficial. So with that broad array, I really appreciate all the work that's been done, and I hope we can move forward and connect what is here now to a much broader network for this whole city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Evening.
Hi. My name is Scott Long, and I live at 180 Clifton Drive, and I'm here to talk about my support for Prince Avenue. Every day that I go to work at Bike Athens, I talk to and repair bikes for people that rely on them for transportation. We fix their flat tires, we make sure their brakes work, and if they're fortunate enough to have gears, we make sure those work as well. Many of our clients can't afford to go to commercial bike shops, but their need for these services doesn't go away. As a board member for the Athens Homeless Coalition, I have the privilege to work alongside so many other nonprofit leaders that serve the people of Athens. It lets me take a step back from thinking about bikes all day and see the bigger picture of how we can work together to help improve the lives of some of the most vulnerable members of our community. The pilot project on Prince Avenue is also one piece of a larger picture, one piece of a transportation network that we should all be working to improve in whatever role that we can. It's not just about whether we think the Zikla zippers are effective or not, or whether we should consider whether game day traffic is marginally affected. Those are the kinds of issues you should trust expert staff to continue to look at the data and make improvements. The people of Athens-Clarke County continue to vote for and pass SPLOST and T-SPLOST referendums because of the promise and vision of building a safer and connected network so all residents can access jobs, education, healthcare, social services, and local businesses. I hope to join you all in support for the pilot project.
Thank you, Scott. Good evening.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jason Perry. I'm here to speak on the Prince Avenue project, as you might imagine. I'm the board president of Bike Athens, and I live at 170 Hall Street. There you go. I've lived here 15 years, and I plan to retire here in 15 more, maybe 12. We'll see. Tonight, I want to speak in favor of making permanent the Prince Avenue pilot project with some improvements to address safety concerns. I don't know what it's like to be a commissioner or the mayor, but I imagine it involves a lot of concern over being viewed as business unfriendly. With that in mind, I'd like to share two important points that I took away from a meeting at the Chamber of Commerce 3 years ago. One, almost gone are the days that people move to where an industry is located. Rather, the trend is for businesses to locate where the talent lives. Two, people want to live in places with good quality of life, including walkable and bikeable streets, as well as access to transit. The latter point is echoed by the 2017 and 2020 National Association of Realtors Community Preferences surveys. Like it or not, we're in a competition with cities like Chattanooga and Greenville, and frankly, they are eating our lunch. Some of you remember the business community came out in force to squash the 3-laning of Prince in 2005. I speak neither for the chamber nor do I know their position on this issue today, although we may find out. But I was glad to hear their apparent change of heart 3 years ago. Many of the businesses from back then are gone now, which makes you wonder whether unfettered 45-mile-per-hour traffic into downtown was the key to success that they thought it was. After all this time, today's businesses in the pilot project focus group had surprisingly positive reactions after it was implemented. In 2016, Doherty Street got a road diet, giving the leftover pavement to parallel parking with very little drama compared to Prince Avenue. It was one of the latest major thoroughfares in Athens to join the 3-lane club, including Millage, Lumpkin, and Baxter. I am unaware of issues with emergency response times or major traffic delays on those streets, though I do know that safety for all modes is better on them. Please trust the experts on the county staff to adjust the details based on lessons learned from the pilot and don't throw the baby out with the bathwater based on emotional reactions. Locals endure game day traffic everywhere 6 days a year, whether they want it or not. The Wendy's entrance has always been so bad that people joke, "I'm dying to go to Wendy's." The Pulaski intersection has never made sense. This pilot project didn't cause those issues. I get around town on foot, on a bike, on a motorcycle, and in a full-size pickup. I've gone out of my way to travel on Prince as much as possible lately, and in each mode, it's been demonstrably safer in my experience. I even managed not to blow out my tires, and all I had to do was pay attention to the road. Ask anyone in the Navy, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. Finally, in my day job, we have a guiding principle regarding long-range planning. Make decisions that our successors will appreciate and build upon. While your predecessors didn't do that in 2005, you can set the next commission up for success. Don't set us back 17 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Good evening.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Mayor, Commissioners, my name is David Bradley. I live at 316 Ashbrook Lane. And I'm also here to talk about item number 8. And guys, you're right. Change is hard. Change is hard, but change is worthy. My concern with the project really does reflect is about emergency personnel being able to get in and out in a efficient fashion. Making Prince Avenue safe for everybody is of paramount concern. Make no question. And slowing down traffic is ideal. That's a major artery in and out of town. Let's just make sure that emergency personnel can get to and through efficiently and effectively. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Does Is anyone else here to speak to any item on old or new business tonight? Evening.
Good evening. My name is Allison Bracewell McCulloch. I reside at 465 Millage Circle. I appreciate the opportunity to provide feedback on the Prince Avenue pilot project on behalf of the University of Georgia. As I shared with all of you in an earlier letter, the university understands the pilot project aims to increase safety along the corridor. Safety is also a top priority for the university. We have concerns, however, about the changes that have been made and how they may actually decrease safety. First, measurements show that the pilot project lane widths do not meet the minimum 10-foot travel lane that was approved by the Mayor and Commission for this project, and they fall well short of the 10-foot width recommended for urban areas by the technical standards of Athens-Clarke County Transportation and Public Works. The narrowed lanes hamper clearance for large vehicles and increase the potential for accidents. Ignoring the local standards set for road widths in urban areas defies an established safety measure in pursuit of another, which still fails to achieve the original goal of a safe travel experience. The road width at Pulaski and Prince, as an example, measures only 8 feet 3 inches, and these lanes are problematic for buses and vehicles. With only inches to spare between vehicles and the addition of parked delivery trucks in the middle lane, the potential for collisions has increased, and turns have become treacherous on this main artery of Athens. Second, the bike lane delineators used in the pilot project are damaging tires, resulting in abandoned and disabled vehicles that are a hazard to other drivers. Disabled vehicles are left in the road, creating a challenge when only one travel lane in each direction remains. Third, the pilot project configuration jeopardizes emergency response times. Police, fire, and EMS have had to reevaluate response routes due to increased congestion on Prince. When they must divert to alternative routes on secondary residential roads, emergency response time is slowed. This is dangerous when lives are at stake, and seconds could make a critical difference in saving a life. We understand that Piedmont Athens Regional has voiced similar concerns to all of you about ambulances and other vehicles traveling to and from the hospital. Fourth, at the point where the road shifts from 4 lanes to 2, the roadway configuration becomes extremely confusing. Cars are parked in the middle of the street, and these stationary vehicles increase the likelihood of accidents. Finally, the aesthetics of the project have created a travel experience that is baffling in one of our city's primary corridors. It has created traffic delays and unnecessary congestion for local businesses and visitors to our community along the route. Thank you.
Thank you, Allison. Is there anyone else here to speak to any old or new business this evening?
Hi, everyone. My name is Julie Jager, and I live at 437 South Rock Springs. I just want to start off by saying, as someone who takes the majority of my trips on foot and on bike, how appreciative I am of everything that folks who have done for the Prince Pilot Project. It's been very, very appreciated. I think to vote against the Prince Avenue corridor improvements is to vote against road safety for everyone that's living in Athens. The road diet that happened on Prince is important for enhancing road safety, and rechanneling some of the space for bike lanes and better sidewalks can help actually to decrease vehicle accidents happening in our city. There was a report that was released by the ACC Police Department. It's the 2021 Vehicle Crash and Traffic Enforcement Annual Report, and it shared that there was a motor vehicle crash in Athens in 2021 every 96 minutes, with someone being seriously injured in a motor vehicle crash every 4 days. A fatal crash occurred in Athens every 15 days, which is crazy, and in 2021, fatal vehicle crashes were at a 10-year high. There have been numerous studies that have been done across the country in cities like Portland, Dallas, San Francisco, and Chicago that actually show that separated bike lanes make roads safer for everyone that's traveling on those roadways. Researchers found that infrastructure built for cyclists alone, not even more cyclists on the road, but just the infrastructure itself, can reduce fatal accidents in cities because motorists are focused to drive more safely and pay more attention, and they have to slow down. The Athens in Motion plan shares that we have a Vision Zero approach to traffic safety, but the number of fatal and serious injuries from accidents in Athens is continuing to increase, so I really urge you all to do something to combat that. I've also heard a lot of people talk about equity and the safety and comfort of motorists traveling along Prince. So I think it's really important that there's an understanding of what equity in transportation looks like. Transportation equity is when all members of a community, not just people traveling in cars, have the opportunity to engage in modes of travel that are accessible, affordable, and safe. This just doesn't currently exist in Athens like it should. The reality of it is that too many people are focused on cars and those that are behind the wheels of them, but forget to focus on the large number of community members that don't have cars, nor do they have the ability to drive for whatever reason. All travelers, regardless of mode of transportation, have the right to get where they are trying to go safely. And in Athens, there are no other protected bike lanes. So having a small one down one of the more dangerous and scary roads, I don't believe is inequitable at all. It is not equitable to focus on keeping drivers happy and feeling comfortable when countless Athenians are having to rely on other modes of transportation to get where they need to go, and many do not feel safe or comfortable during their commute. If we're going to think about equity when making our decision, let's make sure that we're keeping in mind every single commuter in Athens, not just those that take up the most road space. I also want to say thank you so much, Commissioner Link, Commissioner Denson, and Commissioner Edwards. We're very sad to see you go, but y'all have done some really amazing things, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Julie. Is anyone else here to speak to any item of old or new business tonight?
Hey, my name's Ben Jacobs Nicholson. I live at 551 Athens Avenue. I'll keep it brief because I know that I'm not the only one in support of this amendment or this provision for the Prince Avenue project. But I live on Athens Avenue, which is just off of Barber Street. I work on Millage Avenue. I travel this stretch of road almost every day to commute to work. My commute has not been impacted whatsoever by these improvements that have been made several months ago. What has changed is how much safer I feel when traveling up and down Prince Avenue, both as a person driving a vehicle, but also as a pedestrian and someone that frequently runs in my neighborhood. I would appreciate making the road diet permanent to ensure safety of all those who live here. I'd also like to just say that I feel like basing this decision off of 6 UGA home football games would be a disservice to the permanent residents of Athens. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ben. Is there anyone else here to speak to any item of old or new business this evening?
Good evening. I'm John Devine, 148 Virginia Avenue. I'm here to speak in favor of number 8 tonight. Just wanted to say I've lived in Athens now for 20 years, been working on these kinds of projects the whole time and advocating for bike walk safety the whole time. At some point in those 20 years, I realized that I was no longer really advocating for my own safety anymore. I've lived here long enough and spent enough time on the roads of Athens that I've gotten pretty good at biking in traffic. I'm advocating for the people who are next, right? My 12-year-old daughter, her friends, high school kids, college kids, new people who are getting out there on foot, getting out there on bike for the first time maybe, and who aren't familiar with it. This project has done so much for them. I want to thank Athens-Clarke County TPW staff. They are doing an incredible job. It's really the first time I'm able to say thanks to TPW for reaching out, being proactive about bike walk safety directly in the community, doing great things out there. So I'll leave it at that. I'll fill out my slip and hand it over as soon as I do. Thank you so much for this great project.
Thank you, John. Evening.
Hi. Hello. I'm Michael Goltzer. I live at 120 Valleywood Drive in Athens. I've been riding my bicycle on Prince Avenue for about 20 years, and I've heard a lot of things proposed and defeated. So it's very good to see, this road diet in place. I do feel a lot safer riding on it. For the last several years before I retired, I was a daily commuter on Prince Avenue, and when I would talk to people and tell them that I bicycled on Prince Avenue to work every day, pretty much uniform horror was expressed at this because of the perception that I was taking my life into my hands. I have had a few close calls in that time. That is kind of a scary spot in terms of riding in Athens. I'm glad to see that something's been done, and I would ask the commission and commissioners-elect to support making this permanent. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. Evening.
I would like to address the American Rescue Plan, and I feel like it's item number 7. I feel like the county has to lay out the platform for affordable housing in this community, because the individual builder is not going to do it, and it's not going to be affordable. There's too many students at the University of Georgia that own the Hope Scholarship, so their parents can pay whatever to live. And the working class people, that becomes a problem. I gave an example here, $2 million we can take in the east of Athens, take 50 homeowners. We've got to start putting money in people's hands and not using it for administrative costs. And you could take 50 homeowners, give them $20,000, $25,000 to repair their homes, whether they need a roof, this and that, whatever. That way the money goes to the homeowner. And we presenting a platform. See, I saw the same commission, and it really disappointed me to see a zoning committee say no, but the commissioner said we're going to put $350,000 homes in a very small space into a neighborhood that has $150,000 homes, and you're helping them out. The zoning committee said no, but this same commission said yes. There is monies going in this American Rescue Plan on Dublin Street to Athens Land Trust. I'm interested to see what type of homes, affordable homes, are they going to build? Or are they going to do what they did on Nottingham? Say it's affordable. Working class people don't make a whole lot of money here. And the average rent is $1,200 to $1,300. 2 bedrooms. So I'm interested in finding out what is Land Trust plans for Dublin Street. Because this is in the back of a royal court. It's back of traditional black neighborhoods. I know, like y'all know, property taxes goes up. We're giving a lot of money to the Athens Housing Authority. They're doing the Bethel Homes project right now. But I'm here to say, when they did Columbia, Brookside, and Pauldo, very few percentage of those people from Pauldo moved back into Columbia, Brookside. Now it's going up a little bit now. They'll tell you it's going up a little because they're moving people from Bethel Homes over there. They have to provide a place for them to live. And I'm not trusting so sure that it'll be better at Bethel Homes.
Walter, thank you. Can you give us your name for the record? We just need that for the clerk.
It don't even matter about my name, Walter Allen.
Okay, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. All right, time's expired. Appreciate it. Anyone else here to speak to any item of old or new business tonight?
Here you go. Good evening, Mayor Gertz and commissioners. I'm Teresa Friedlander, 115 Middleton Place, and I think you all probably know where I stand on the Prince Avenue pilot. I've written you a letter in support, and I think it's been a great program. I want to thank you all for permitting this pilot to go forward. I think that was just a really wonderful service that you've provided the city. And I also want to thank you for adopting the Complete Streets policy and the Vision Zero staff person that you approved for hiring. So I just want to say real quickly that I have traveled Prince Avenue walking, driving, and on my bicycle, and I have really enjoyed the experience in all 3 modes. It's much better than it was before. I have also read the letters with concerns about making it permanent, and I would just encourage you to look at the data from the pilot, which really show no negative impacts. Nobody's fears have been realized. So I think that, that approving this will be a really wonderful thing to do for Athens-Clarke County, and I hope you will do it. And after all, big cities like New York and DC have installed bike facilities and used road diets, and they've done this on roads where it's not possible to widen the street. And if they can do it, we can too. So thank you so much. Appreciate you all.
Thank you, Teresa. Good evening.
How you doing? Hi, I'm Randy Halstead. I reside at 320 Cherokee Road in Winterville. And I'd like to start by saying that today will be the best traffic day in Athens' future. With all the development that we see going, I mean, Athens is a place that people want to be, and Athens-Clarke County. And with UGA increasing enrollment, we're always going to see increased traffic if we do nothing. Our roads were designed many, many, many years ago, and not designed for the level of traffic we see today, and certainly not for the level of traffic we see in the future. We've got to make it easier for people to get from point A to point B, to go to businesses, to go to recreation, to go to the things that we love about Athens. And a project like Prince Avenue is definitely the way to go. If we make it safer for people to ride their bicycles, to skateboard, to whatever mode of transportation they wish to do that takes them out of a car, that is the best way forward for us. Living in Winterville and seeing the success of that 1 mile stretch of the Firefly Trail, which honestly, as it exists today, you really have no place to go other than from one end to the other. With the exception, we do have the auditorium going guns and have concerts, and people are walking to those concerts and not driving. But you will see that same level of success if we make it easier and safer for people to be able to bike. And as I say, any mode of transportation that takes them out of a car is going to be the best way to lessen traffic within the city. And I thank you for considering this, and I hope we move forward with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. All right, everyone, I appreciate the, come on up. Good evening.
Mark Babcock, 145 Deer Tree Drive. Some of UGA's best people ride bicycles, and it shocks me that UGA would want to take away their safety for a couple of football games. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Babcock. Anyone else here to speak to any item on old or new business? Evening.
Hi, my name is Kevin Bonanno. I live at 100 Prince Avenue. I don't have anything new to say, so I'm just going to say I'm here in support of the Prince Avenue improvement.
Thank you, Kevin. Evening.
Try this again. I'm Sally Kirkleski. I'm at 120 Moose Club Drive. And yeah, I don't have anything to say that hasn't already been said other than I've watched and heard of multiple people get hit walking and biking and trying to cross Prince Avenue. That's where I've had my closest calls as a pedestrian, a runner, and a cyclist. And I'm just thrilled to see something that's trying to reduce that so that other people don't have to be enjoying a meal at the Grit, may it rest in peace, and watch someone get hit while they're eating. So that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hi, my name is Laura Hall. I live at 295 Tanglewood Drive. I grew up in Athens, and we used to bike here. We'd go out South Millage past the Bot Gardens, because that's where there used to not be traffic. Anyway, 15 to 20 years ago, I started biking with my kids. I'd bike them to Emmanuel. I'd bike them to Chase Street. They're grown now, and I actually moved to the suburbs, so I'm not biking. And 30 years ago, I worked in Melbourne, Australia as a bike courier. And it was just normal then that people would bike to work, to school, kids bike through parks, bike lanes everywhere. And so anyway, I was over there because I also studied landscape architecture, and my job was over there, and my school was there. And so I've spent many years in the past 20 working with downtown streetscape plans, and mostly in the southeast, and connecting green space to bike trails and separating pedestrian and vehicular traffic. I mean, that's what Olmsted was doing with Central Park, Grant Park, Piedmont Park. And so I just, I know there's probably some trickiness and things to fix with the bike lanes, but it does seem like a great opportunity to improve this corridor that connects our neighborhoods and housing and schools to downtown. So I just hope you guys will look at that and try to figure it out so that it becomes a positive. And can I speak about the Airbnb?
That's not on the agenda tonight.
Oh, it's not? Okay. Thank you.
I apologize. Yeah, we're moving it to the Planning Commission, yes. Go right ahead.
Wait,
Go right ahead. Yeah, we are moving it tonight.
So it is on the agenda? Okay, okay. So anyway, I also wanted to say that if you guys decide to regulate Airbnb, please think about that. Many of us use Airbnb as a way to live in town in a very small house, to have housing for family, and to do art, music, other things, and have flexibility with that. Because we don't have big houses. I don't currently live in town, but I still have an Airbnb in Normaltown. But I kind of kept that as a way to go back to Normaltown once my family became small again. And I just really would ask you to at least look at, I know that affordable housing is a big problem in Athens, and it always has been. But I think that at least differentiating between families that are trying to do creative businesses and trying to make a little bit of extra income and have flexibility with housing for when they have family come into town, versus people that own a lot of Airbnbs and that are making a lot of money. Just kind of look at the differences in that, because I feel like it would be a little bit of a shock to have put money into houses that serve as Airbnbs, and then all of a sudden the rules are getting changed.
Thank you, Laura.
So, thank you.
Appreciate it.
How you doing, there?
Evening.
Hello, Mayor, Commissioner. My name is Hosea Foote. I live at 224 Township Lane in Athens, Georgia. I'm also president of Hope for Inspiration. I'm here to talk about item number 7, the ARPA fund for ARPA fund recommendation. A wise man once told me, you can't be too sensitive or too overpromised to sit in the Athens-Clarke County Commissioner seat. That man's name was Jerry Naismith. If anyone doesn't know me, who I am one of the main players the ACC awarded $2.5 million to a first-of-a-kind program dealing with the homeless. Not to mention an inexperienced nonprofit. During many months of negotiation to get to the contract, I learned the ins and outs how to work with ACC government. During that process, I learned the importance of collaboration with other organizations, especially if you're a newly open organization. So when the ARPA RFP came out to address this affordable housing, I reached out to the main organization that we figured was going to be rewarded the funds anyway. Our proposition to them was to collaborate with the two organizations to develop and build 24 doors on the east side of Athens with lots and zonings already in place and approved. No need to come back in front of the Mayor Commission for rezoning. If anyone doesn't comprehend what 24 doors are, it's 24 3-bedroom, 2-bath units at 2,400 square foot. We propose rent at $1,250 to $1,450 per month, and that depends on the AMI of that person. The two organizations' response was they was going to apply. Our staff, engineers, suppliers, funding source came up with a budget of $12.5 million to make this development happen. I'm not here to put down any organization. I'm here to state some facts. This affordable housing issue isn't going to go anywhere in the next 2 years. It's something we must be truthful to the people about talking with a couple of U.S. representatives, this affordable housing problem is a local problem, and always have been. Until we correct zoning and density locally, this will be a problem for many years down the road. To end, and these ARPA funds are going to solidify the problem. I say give it to the Bethel project. It's the only realistic approach that we're doing to address this home problem. Now that's if Mr. Parker can control his budget. Now on these ADU, Airbnb that has been proposed, we need to know what areas will be allowed, how old can the property be to be accepted. I want to thank you guys for your time and consideration. I told a high-ranking official within the Athens-Clarke County government back in January when he called me about a professional decision that I made. And he asked me why you walked away. My answer to him was it was a character decision and to move forward with the business. My last thing to him was you better get ready for this affordable housing problem because it's going to be the holy grail, and I'll be seeing you soon. My thing is if we're going to be trying to build affordable housing, let's try to preserve the ones that we got here 10, 20 years down the road. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else here speak to any item of old or new business tonight before we begin commission discussion? Evening.
Evening, everyone. I want to thank everybody who's leaving us, by the way, for their service also. David Hyde, 190 Endale, Athens. Number 8 on the agenda, Prince Avenue. I am 100% in agreement with the changes. I'm a builder and I drive a 1-ton truck with a dump trailer and I still can navigate everything without any problems. So I don't see an issue there. I do want to address number 6 as far as short-term rental because I think what really should happen here in keeping with the gentleman before me is having a comprehensive approach to affordable housing, zoning issues, lot sizes, ADUs, and short-term rentals being all kind of in one approach. It seems to me to work more and be more readable and understandable for everyday people, especially a builder. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Evening.
Good evening. I'm Scott Nesbitt. I live at 280 Terra Way, and I am here to speak. Well, enough people have spoken about item 8, and I don't have anything original to say on that. But on item 6, I want to commend the Government Operations Committee for a really strong report on short-term rentals. I've looked at the policies in Savannah and Atlanta a fair amount, and this policy is a really good one in comparison to those. I can understand that there are people who have Airbnbs who are concerned about the resale value of those homes being affected, and that they want to be able to pass on that use, but I think that the committee did a great job in restricting that and only grandfathering in those properties for the current owners. Affordable housing is among our most difficult problems here in Athens, as you all know, and have taken a great deal of time to think about. And it's obviously needs many different solutions, and I think that this is one really good one. So I want to commend the Government Operations Committee and request that the Commission move this to the Planning Commission. Thank you,
Scott. Evening.
Evening. My name is Emil Aldridge, and I live at 410 King Avenue, and I'm just here to speak about the short-term rental and kind of put in my 2 cents as well. Unlike the previous speaker, I don't know all of the particulars of the proposal. I did hear Commissioner Denson on NPR speaking his part of it, and I just want to make the point that if you do pass something like this, I think you should do it carefully and slowly. For our part, for example, we have one little Airbnb on our property, and we use it for a guest house and other uses. My wife has pottery sales there, so we really like the flexibility. And there's a little more money, not a dramatic amount. It wouldn't change our lives that much if it went back, but still, I guess we wouldn't be completely thrilled with it. And then there's a lot of other people who have put significant investments in this. And this is something that's been legal for a long time, or at least quasi-legal. It's been accepted. And if you suddenly pull the rug out from under people, then you're really undermining their investment, and they probably won't be happy about it. In fact, the only people that will be happy might be the local hotel industry, because I know that it's some of their competition. But the main point is, just try to. I don't think you should paint them all with a broad brush. You should look at individual cases. People that own one or two versus people that are coming in, outside investors buying up lots of property. And anyway, the other point is just take your time. Don't just, So thank you.
Thank you, Emil.
Okay.
Evening.
Good evening. Hi, my name is Elise Stengel. I'm at 235 River Hill Drive, and I also just wanted to come and speak in support of the Prince Avenue pilot project. I drive it multiple times a week, and I've biked it a few times and feel much safer. I avoided it completely by bike in the past, and I hope that y'all will consider making it permanent, and I just wanted to thank you for your service.
Thank you, Elise. All right. If anybody else is going to speak, if now's the time to line up.
Yeah, line up. Leave that up there. I'm Lauren Blaze, 140 Inglewood Avenue. I'm the chair of the Athens in Motion Commission to implement the bike and pedestrian master plan. I'm also on SPLOST 2018, which is funding the Prince Avenue pilot project. And I am so excited about tonight, because tonight is the night where we are finally going to do this. We are finally going to have a safe, connected Prince Avenue. Tonight we get to continue the conversation. And I hope after this vote, our commissioners-elect, I hope they're paying attention. I hope that they see how much this corridor means to us. So Prince Avenue, it's a Tier 1 project in the Athens in Motion plan. That basically means out of all the high priority projects we have, this is one of the top 75. And 75 is a big number, right? And this pilot project, it's quite remarkable. It's been kind of a golden project, as it were, because we have been able to accomplish something that's almost impossible, and that is we have been able to increase safety without impacting level of service, right? That's amazing. I can't promise that all of our safety projects will be like that, but that is just wonderful. So it's like we get to have our cake and eat it too. So, whether I'm biking on Prince Avenue, which I'm doing a whole lot more now, or I'm driving, or I'm walking, or if I decide to take the bus again, it doesn't matter. It's great. It's a wonderful experience. And I just want to say, that's wonderful, and that's great because we have so many more projects to work on, so many roads that need our attention, and many more people who will be injured on our roads before we can fully implement this plan. So we need to be able to pass this project to continue the conversation and to move on to these other important corridors, right? And this should really be low-hanging fruit at this point. And if we, after 2 or 3 decades of studies, thousands of hours put in by our consultants, user groups, focus groups, endless committees and commissions, if we cannot make this corridor safer, I don't know about the rest of Athens. I'm going to be honest with you. But tonight we're going to do this. And it's easy to talk about safety as a concept, as something that we're for, but when it comes to actually implementing something that's going to increase safety, that takes political will. Before we could say we don't have the money, before we could say we don't have a plan, or we don't have input. But now we have all these things. And now you get to check the box. And for some of you, this will be your legacy. And I thank you for that. Thanks.
Thank you, Lauren. All right, we're going to go ahead and take up these items. First item is old business. This is SPLOST 2020 Project 3.
Related to the settlement?
We did that.
Okay,
Yep,
I'm
we
just-
voted to amend
all
that
right.
agenda. Yes, thank you, Attorney Drake. I appreciate that. So first item is the proposed schematic design for the Hickory Street parking deck. This, of course, is an amended proposal, as we saw in our presentation a week ago. I'd entertain a motion.
So move.
Second.
All right, I've got a motion from Commissioner Hamby and a second from Commissioner Link for approval. Commissioner Hamby, any comments regarding this item?
No, I think we've seen this several times, and I think we found a way to move forward. It's a schematic design. It'll be coming back to us in other iterations, and so ready to move forward.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Link, any follow-up?
I don't think so. We've had multiple presentations on this.
Thank you. Commissioner Edwards?
I agree. We've had several presentations on this one, but it wasn't until the last one that the proposed parking deck went from 500 spots to 1,000 spots. And the size of a 1,000 spot parking deck appears to now jeopardize placing the new courthouse in our sort of downtown area. And for that reason, I'm not going to support this this design. I could go along with 500 spaces, but I just can't. I can't, in good conscience, just double the size to 1,000 spaces and make it practically impossible to keep our courthouse downtown in one step. So I'm not going to be voting for this one.
Commissioner Houle?
Thanks, Mayor. First, I just have a question. I know this is appearing on our agenda under old business, but it does say on the agenda item to consider it under suspension of rules. Do we need to suspend the rules before we vote on this?
We'll do that right before the new business, right before item 2.
Okay. Yeah, I have mixed feelings about this one, but we're really struggling to find a fiscal way forward on a lot of these big projects that came in on the SPLOST list. Some of them not even fully funded at the time, and now the costs have escalated. So while some of what's included in this is not my favorite, there's also some things that this gets us that are my favorite, such as the $15.85 wage floor for Classic Center employees, which I think is a huge deal. So I see a real community benefit to this project moving forward in this way, and as mixed as I feel about it, I'm planning to support it tonight. Thanks.
Commissioner Denson?
Thank you, Mayor. I did have just a couple of clarifications I'd like to have before we vote. On one of the, I guess this would be to the management or the attorney if they can offer any clarification. I know that we've been talking about that some of the residential components within this that are going to be built on some of these properties that we are giving up. There's been said commitments about affordable housing, about the percentage of those being affordable. Does that need to be in this IGA? Because I did not see it in there.
It's not in the IGA,
Yeah.
and I wasn't aware of the commitments.
I just wasn't sure if that was going to be done at a different step, but like that's what's been talked about, and I kind of, yeah. Okay. So I do have a concern about that. And then the one other thing I have a concern about is under facts and issues, number 6. When we had the presentation, it was discussed that as we've been pushing for this parking deck to be multi-use, to have some retail component, some kind of lease dates, the future expansion to potentially accommodate office space, rooftop amenity space, or other. And I guess that I felt like was a little, I thought that was baked in. It seems like that is now a potential thing.
I know the Classic Center Authority Director is here. Would you like to
Sure, yeah, for both of those
Mr.
items. I would
Kramer,
love-
I don't know
yeah,
if you got a couple
that'd be
minutes.
fantastic. Yeah, thank you.
Do you want to speak to the housing component of the master plan first and then the prospective
Sure.
structured
So
use?
I think what is in the IGA, and it is kind of a catch-all, is that we've put in the IGA that the manager is going to approve the actual development agreement along with the Classic Center Authority. That is baked into there. So I think that will be our opportunity to say to the developer, this is what you've said to the property committee, and this is what we expect to happen as we go forward. To your second issue, it has been designed with the retail space in it, and it has been designed so we can build recreational things up on top. And I will tell you that is the intent of the developer as well. So I don't think you have anything to worry about there.
I guess with that, I do have a little bit of concern of, it seems to definitely put a lot of pressure and responsibility onto the manager to have to carry through those promises that seem, I don't know, seems like that's not normally the way that we would operate, but.
I don't know, Manager Williams, if you want to talk about
Sure.
process, kind of how you would review schematics.
I think that was based on just as the project moves forward, like Bethel, this came up when we were addressing who the agreements were between. In this case, we have an agreement with the Classic Center Authority, and then once you convey these properties, they will in turn have an agreement, developer's agreement that Director Kramer mentioned. And the thought was that in order to be responsive and move it forward, much like Bethel, that I would approve those things. I appreciate you bringing that up because I don't know if it's as clear now. I know it was talked about some months ago that there would be some portion of those dedicated. So, I mean, I will do whatever y'all want. I think the reason that was suggested was to still give this government, some leverage in what's going to happen there because you're conveying all this property there, but not to get caught up in a lengthy process. But, we'll do whatever the will of the commission is.
Commissioner Hamby?
Sure, and I do see, Commissioner Denson, it's on page 7 of the website, that they do have in the IGA about the $15.85 floor for authority employees. So I don't know if that addresses your concern there.
My concern was that the residential components, which there's multiple of, I think up to three different, that they had guaranteed that a percentage of those units was going to be affordable housing.
I got you, I'm sorry.
And that part's just not in here.
Okay.
Commissioner Link, I know you've been part of the property committee.
This design has certainly changed and the parking deck, its footprint has expanded. And from my understanding, there are multiple sites still within the parameters of downtown that are still under consideration by the site selection committee for the judicial center. And from what I also understand in the presentation that Mr. Kramer gave us a couple weeks ago, that retail space that is part of this deck could possibly be used for some of those functions if we were to continue with that Hickory Street site, which the footprint is smaller now due to the expansion of this deck. There is that possibility, so it is still on the table for that site selection committee to consider. Am I correct with that?
Manager Williams, I don't know if you want to speak to kind of how that affects the kind of overall Hickory Street landscape.
Sure. Well, the architect that has been hired to design the judicial center, we did ask what the impact was with this larger deck footprint, and they don't believe that the 0.85 acres that are remaining after you place the deck there would be sufficient to build. Of course, you could build a micro tower, but as far as the circulation and things, would be advantageous to us. And that, it's possible, but probably more unlikely if you go with this footprint. And that would require us, Commissioner Link, to look at other properties, which, as you know, the Site Selection Committee brought forth a number of those.
And there are a couple properties still in the downtown vicinity that are on that list.
Yes, and I just want to qualify for folks that are trying to keep up with this, that it's been made more complicated by the construction escalation. And, the thought was that we build one big facility and we're good. That does not appear to be the case, and we're working through whether that's a smaller facility with potential expansion at the next SPLOST or how we do that. And that's the struggle that we're in right now.
Thank you.
Commissioner Myers.
Yeah, I'm struggling with this. In the end, I am going to support it because it's clear that we are in the midst of a project that needs to be moving forward for it all to work out, and we've already committed a lot of funds to it. I'm struggling because this has been so complicated to keep track of, and there's so many components to this that are coming up new. The information about the site no longer being available for the judicial center, and the reasoning behind that we've just gotten in the last couple of days. There's also if I understand correctly, there's a possibility we will be I don't even know. There's another loan being applied for that if it's gotten, then we or the Classic Center would then take another percentage of the parking deck back, like 41%. So I'm struggling with all these details and keeping them straight. One thing I just pulled up an email that I thought I had hit send on. Anyone ever do that? And I didn't hit it earlier today, but I was reading in the new IGA that broadens the property that's previously was designated for senior housing to housing in general. That's correct, right? So that's a new detail there. And there was a reference to a new district development plan, and I will admit humbly up here that I'm like, do I know about this district development plan? Is this? I'm not sure, and that's what I was writing about. So I'm going to support this. Because I'm trusting staff, I am trusting our finance people, I am trusting Paul Kramer at this point. But this is very complicated, more complicated yet because of rises in construction costs. But the kind of financing that has gone into this, I thought it was complicated. I think it was 2.5 years ago when I sat out here off the commission and saw the last presentation for the Classic Center Arena. At that point, I thought it was complicated, and it's become so much more complicated. So I'm struggling with it for that. I feel a responsibility to keep on top of this, and I'm not sure if I really feel like I'm totally on top of it, despite reading so much.
If I could, Mayor.
Yeah, Manager Williams.
Thank you, Commissioner Myers, and I'm not sure anybody would disagree with you about that. So I guess just to kind of bring it into context for folks that are probably struggling on following this. So this was originally going to be an $80 million building, and the commission granted $34 million in the SPLOST, which meant the balance of those funds had to be coming from different revenue sources. In the meantime, there was a desire to push the project forward, and as you know, we went ahead, which we don't normally do, with 75% construction documents, and so the ball started rolling. Meanwhile, construction escalation, the current approved budget for just the arena is $135 million. That initially included the parking deck, and then of course, the current deck that's being proposed to you, I think, is in the realm of $60 million. So just to put it, this is the way I'm trying to rationalize it to some degree, is that we put $34 million into a $200 million project. Now, of course, the government did back some extra bond issuances on there were two in particular. So what it's led to is a necessary complexity trying to get different revenue streams married up with something that could be sustainable. And of course, those bonds were, projected out, I think, 35 plus years. And that's a long time for bonds. And so our bond rating agencies, once we kind of got up to 100 million that we were floating, I think our finance director rightfully was communicating with the debt, about the debt with our rating agencies, just sort of testing the tea leaves. And in their latest opinion, they were concerned about the amount of speculative debt as far as how far out in the future it was. And so that's where we said as a government, okay, we're not going to be able to keep borrowing funds for this, which the parking deck was sort of the last big piece. And so now, just within this past few weeks, the developer has committed to building this huge asset, which was not our first intention, but it is a way to support the arena. And if a TAD passes, then this deck is owned by a private entity, and there would be those taxes will go towards the TAD, which some of that I think is being requested to be put back into the deal, but most of it will go for other purposes in the district. So I say all that to say it is a very complicated project, Commissioner, and it's been a journey. The Bethel project was not without it's a huge. These are the biggest projects we've delivered in probably the worst construction times, and so there's been a lot of hustling trying to find a way to do it. Are there other ways to do it? I'm sure, but this is where we are at this point.
Thanks, Manager Williams. I think that context is helpful.
Yeah, that's, and if any, I'd also like to request that this property development with this entertainment center and such, there's 3 commissioners, I believe, on that committee, and 2 of them will be leaving in a matter of weeks. And it would. All 3 of them. All 3 of them? Mm-hmm. Oh, it's Commissioner. All 3 of them will be moving on in a couple of weeks. So I just request that perhaps we could share that information among commissioners, because I feel a little ignorant of that whole project going on. And it's going to be a major, when all this is done, it's going to be a major transition, as significant as the Prince Avenue 3-laning.
I think that's right, Commissioner Myers. This is definitely, I think, for communities understanding, really not just an arena and a parking deck. It's really an entire district. I mean, not unlike what was under discussion 12 years ago when the sort of blue heron concept was floated. And so it has understandably gotten more complex, but I will say, as a longtime observer of this piece of the geography, that complexity benefits the entire community financially, and you have a sort of more sustainable model for just the public component, the arena itself. I look at a lot of my friends in peer communities, Savannah being a good example, who recently built an arena, and they had to commit quite a few more public dollars to that project to get it off the ground, and the partnerships here have meant that not only do we not have to commit the volume of public dollars, but as noted earlier, we're significantly raising the wage floor for folks who are in that public facility as public employees. So, at the end of the day, the complexities are real, but I have every belief that the benefits are going to be just as real. So, Commissioner Denson.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to ask for any help from the attorney or the manager's office on how to formulate a motion to. I've enjoyed working with Mr. Kramer and everybody. I know we all have the best intentions, but because of the economic situation we're in when it comes to housing, I do have concerns that once things move forward, that the first thing on the chopping block could be the affordable housing components of these agreements. We've seen it happen before, and I don't think that is. I know part of this discussion, even with some of these land swaps that we're doing here, was based on the assumption that we were going to get affordable housing. That was part of the agreement of this body, and I have just strong concerns that agreement is not in this IGA. I find that's a major lacking. So I guess I ask for any assistance from the attorney's office manager on how we can structure a motion, I guess either directing the manager within the role that you were being given in this IGA, that you would, that we would guarantee the affordability components that have been discussed and that are in the master development plan, or whatever that plan is called.
One element that I would point out, Commissioner, is that given that they've indicated there's going to be a future request for TAD funds, that's a request that both has to flow through the resident TAD advisory body and then has to come back to the commission. And so that's an absolute power of this body.
Mm-hmm.
So just if your concern was that this is the last stop before kind of any unfettered activity happens, that would not be the case.
I know it might not be the last stop, but I think we've all seen how fast this bus moves, and I think lost. Yeah, I mean, to me, I assumed, and I mean, this IGA didn't have a lot of time to look over it. Finally finished reading it this morning, and I was definitely I had assumed that the affordability component was going to be in there, since that was why this body decided to give some of this property up at least.
So with sort of housing being your kind of primary area of interest, I don't know if Attorney Drake, a motion might include that any housing component of the master plan return for review by the commission or something comparable to that.
We could put in here, I was reading, it says, the Unified Governance Manager, in Section 3 of the IGA, the Unified Governance Manager shall be required to approve all such agreements between the authority and the master developer, including any amendments in there too. In addition, it says, the prior sentence, development agreement shall include requirement master developer fund require improvements to the public infrastructure related to construction. The development agreement shall include a requirement that the master developer will fund required improvements to the public infrastructure related to the construction of the Hickory Street parking deck and the arena-inspired economic development projects. We could add a sentence that says the development agreement shall also include the affordable housing component presented by the developer as part of the district development plan. I don't know. I might ask. I was not. I guess I did not hear those discussions. I missed that part of it, but I'm open to Director Kramer help me with the language that needs to be there.
Mayor, may I make a suggestion? It's on page 7 under use of development sites. You've got including senior housing site. Maybe you can have after that, as well as appropriate affordable housing.
The only problem with that part there is that my understanding is only the Classic Center Authority has that discretion, and not.
Well, we could add language say provided, however, that the development site shall include a affordable housing component.
I think that's fair, and I think part of the problem is that we don't have it defined.
Yeah, that's.
And so we would need to, see what the developer is willing to do and come back to y'all. I will tell you that we did talk about in our weekly meeting yesterday about, clarifying some additional issues at a work session in January on the arena. And certainly you can direct me, in a consensus of the future commission, we could request that the developer and the Classic Center at the January work session come forward with some, proposal, if any, on affordable housing. And, of course, they'll be moving ahead, but there's still the leverage of me signing it. And, of course, it'd be smart for me to listen to y'all about that. And so maybe that's a way to move it forward. And I just want to say it, again, for folks watching this, it seems like a rush job. The reason it's so accelerated is that the deck needs to go under construction so it comes online when the arena opens in February of next year or March of next year. That's the rush here, why we wouldn't just table it for a month and discuss it. So I would ask Judd or the Attorney Drake, since you wrote the language, if you felt like that is, all of that's possible with the language that you propose in the IGA.
Well, ultimately, you've got final approval of the development agreement, so if the commission directs you to not to approve a development agreement that doesn't have the affordable housing component in it. I agree. I think part of the difficulty tonight is I don't know what the we don't know the components of it, but if they direct you, you got to do what the commission directs you to do. I mean, so that's the way it works around here.
Yeah, and I just don't, from our meeting that we did, where I was presented the master plan, which I know that's another part, is like the entire commission hasn't been shown this, but, like I know the condominium development during that plan stated that 25% of the condominiums were going to be affordable housing. That's a lot of units, and I believe every other component too. So I think it's very important that that is guaranteed as a benefit that this community gets, from this. So however we need to have that stated, I want to have that guaranteed and baked in.
Trying to get to the motion so I can suggest some language.
What did you say, Commissioner, that you had, where was that discussed on that committee you're on?
Yes, the Master Development Committee, I believe it is what it's called. And there was multiple residential components of that. And on my notes, the only one I recorded was on the condominium complex that 25% was going to be affordable. But I know that there was at least one, if not two, other residential components with guaranteed affordable housing percentages.
What was that committee called?
I believe it is.
It's the Property Review Committee for the Classic Center Authority.
It is in the agenda item here. I can find the exact name.
Is an option to add to
District Development.
The commission motion.
I think I may have something, Mr.
Okay, go right ahead.
District Development Committee?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Commissioner Denson, would it be sufficient to say that we want it to comply with the inclusionary zoning ordinance?
Or comply with that development committee.
Yeah, I actually, within that committee, for my input, I actually recommended that they just go ahead and follow the inclusionary housing ordinance because I thought, for many reasons that we've talked about before, it was the cleanest way that we already have a policy on the books. So I would be happy with that, and my recollection is that the percentages would fall along those lines. So I would definitely be happy with that.
So just to be clear, that's a voluntary ordinance, and so the mayor and commission would ask that that be observed in this. We've not had the opportunity to get feedback, but that's an existing framework that's understandable and not arbitrary.
Well, it's in here, they have to comply with our zoning regulations and such, so that is in here.
It's a voluntary ordinance.
But it's a voluntary, right, but I was thinking in some language, and like Commissioner Hamby in relation to Section 2, that use of development sites, where it says not that it says notwithstanding the 2020 agreement and August 2021 amendment, the authority shall have the discretion to coordinate with the master developer in seeking to determine the best use of each of the development sites, including the senior housing sites, for the purpose of providing the development of rent-inspired economic development projects in accordance with the letter of intent between the authority and master developer dated November 23rd, 2022, attached here to is Exhibit B, provided, however, that the development site shall include an affordable housing component in accordance with the presentation to the District Development Committee.
So move. Does that work, Tim?
So I would add at the end, provided, however, that the development site shall include an affordable housing component in accordance with the presentation to the District Development Committee.
I would be fine with the percentages that were in that presentation, and we can have that presentation sent out to, I guess, attached to this.
So you're referencing a presentation that's already been provided, public document, of course, because we're talking about a public authority.
It's mentioned in the agenda report.
Mentioned in the agenda report. So are you satisfied with that language, Commissioner Hamby, as motioner?
I am, yes.
Commissioner Link is seconder. All right. All right. So thank you for that language, Attorney Drake. I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for working here on the word salad. All right. We've got a motion and a second. If Madam Clerk, you could do a roll call.
Hamby?
Yes.
Davenport?
Yes.
Link? Yes. No. Denson?
Yes.
Poole?
Yes.
Edwards?
No.
Myers.
Yes.
5 yes, 2 no.
I think 6 yes.
There was just a single no, I believe, Madam Clerk.
I'm sorry, do what?
Link was yes.
Link was yes.
Well, I thought she said no.
She was yes. All right, motion carries. All right, we're moving on to new business, so I do need a motion at this time for suspension of rules.
So move.
Second.
All right, I've got a motion for suspension of rules from Commissioner Hamby and a second from Commissioner Denson. All in favor, do say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, rules are suspended, so we're moving on to item 2. This is a Stop Violence Against Women grant program, funding for ACCPD. I'd entertain a motion regarding
So
this.
move.
Second.
All right, I've got a motion from Commissioner Hamby, second from Commissioner Edwards. Commissioner Hamby, any follow-up?
No, looks good. Looks like it's continuing some funding that we already have.
Commissioner Edwards?
Ready to vote.
Commissioner Hool?
Just have a question. This and the subsequent item, looks like, they came across staff's radar sometime in October and November. I'm curious why we're getting these kind of off the regular agenda cycle in a special meeting instead of through a regular.
So we're not having
last year.
any votes in January, so it may be accelerating it. I don't know if, Manager Williams, if we had a continuing body and we were having votes in January, would this have been in January?
I think, I hear you, Commissioner Hool, and we do prefer that they go in a normal cycle. I think the reason they are here is because they've got to get turned in. They need to be approved because this takes effect in the new year. And, we'll continue to try and make sure we get these as real time as possible.
The new year's almost here. Yeah.
All right, there is a motion on the floor and a second. All in favor, do say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, item 3, similar federal grant from the Byrne Justice Assistance
So
Group.
move.
Second.
All right, I've got a motion from Commissioner Hamby, second from Commissioner Edwards. Any other input on this item? Commissioner Hool?
Yeah, this is the one item I'm planning to vote no on tonight. I just wanted to share why.
Okay.
This is yet again us approving funds specifically for a drug enforcement task force. And I think there's a lot of good and necessary work being done by our police department with regards to their gang unit. And I think there's more work that can be and should be done with regards to weapons and firearms and violent crime. But to continue to conflate the failed war on drugs with the prevention of violent crime, I think is something that we would do well to cease doing as a community. And so I'd prefer to see us pursuing these grants through a different lens where we're framing things around the prevention of violence or specifically prosecuting violent crime or firearms, illegal firearms, instead of relying on drugs as the way to arrest and prosecute people. If the rationale here is that the way we target high-level offenders and perpetrators of organized crime is to use this to get to them, well, surely the reason that they're an issue is because they're also involved in violent crimes or, the trafficking of firearms. And so I think we should be using those as the metrics for the things that we're targeting people around, prosecuting and arresting them around, and eventually imprisoning them around. So until and unless we find a way to reframe our participation in the failed war on drugs, I don't see it as a good use of our staff resources, wherever the funds are coming from, including grants, to continue to fund that effort this way. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Link?
Well, I certainly understand where Commissioner Hull's coming from. I do believe that there is a different approach we could be taking and should be taking to the war on drugs. But the fact of the matter is, the legislature of the state of Georgia allows guns on the street quite rampantly, and they're already on the street. The best we can do is invest in these task forces that can tackle the overall problem, because we have very little authority to regulate firearms and even take them away from people who already have them. We have no authority for that. I would say that the reason we have such a rampant violent crime, armed gang problem in not only our community but across the nation is because of our failure to properly control firearms in the first place. And that is a failure of a primarily Republican and right-wing administration.
Commissioner Denson?
Thank you, Mayor. And yeah, as Commissioner Hull brought up, I do agree with Commissioner Hull's points that when we've been presented this, it has been under the encouragement that this task force is fighting against illegal gun usage and illegal gang activity and working towards that well. And we did last year definitely encourage staff to explore creating a different presentation that would explicitly tackle the dangerous illegal gun activity and the gang activity that was happening here, rather than supporting a drug task force that is operating under this guise of drug task force that is actually going after the guns and the gangs, which I think is a less efficient and effective way of doing so. And I did say that if this was brought to us with the same exact structure, that I was not going to support it, because I think we need to explicitly be going after the illegal gun usage. And I would love to see us create an illegal gun task force, as I said at that meeting a year ago, because I think we desperately need it. So, to be consistent in what I've said in the past, I will not be supporting this.
Manager Williams?
So this particular grant is only open to, it's for existing local projects that are either drug task force or K-9 unit. And I do want to mention that, fentanyl is one of the things that this drug task force is looking into. And, we talk about, rightfully so, the violence and the shootings, but the deaths from overdoses far eclipse the number of homicides that we have here. In fact, I think there were 58, and 40 of those, were confirmed overdoses, so of deaths. And so I would just say that this is pretty much what the money's for from the state, and you can choose not to take it. And then secondly, I think there are some valid, uses that these funds will be used for.
And I believe it's the case that the Byrne grants come in several varieties, and this is one variety of those, but there are some others as well that we've received funds for in the past. And then so this is specific to that sort of drug functionality. Commissioner Houle?
Yeah, I guess just, if the way we were approaching identifying and prosecuting users of drugs, including opiates, was working, then we probably wouldn't be continuing to see them rise despite these sorts of task forces existing for decades. That's not to say that all the work they're doing isn't worthwhile, but this all funnels into a system that, if you talk to defense attorneys in this town, we are still prosecuting people who possess, fairly small amounts of these opiates and things. And the way we're approaching this problem, which is a real and growing problem, I don't think is working. And to speak to my colleagues' comments on the idea that we can't prosecute guns, we can prosecute guns if they're illegally possessed, or if they're used in commitment of a crime, or if they're used to commit acts of violence. So if the concern here is guns and violence, then I think we should be seeing it through a different lens that disentangles those arrestable offenses from drug offenses. And if the question here is how do we handle the opiate epidemic, I think we should be turning to harm reduction organizations, diversion programs, things like that as the way forward, and not targeting and arresting users, which is at least part of what the work of this Drug Enforcement Task Force still leads to, and is part of why I can't in good conscience continue to support it. Thank you.
Commissioner Myers?
Yeah, I wish I had written an essay on this one, but I have attended a couple of the meetings that the district attorney has pulled together with the police department, the police chief, who are working together with different organizations in Athens, including Access Point that works on harm reduction. And I know that they're concerned about the fentanyl use as a public health emergency that is as serious as a guns is right now is a real one here. It's a crisis here. There's been more overdose treatments, whatever that magic drug is you give for people who Narcan. That's been used this year than ever before, and so I do want to support our district attorney and the police department's efforts in this direction.
Attorney Drake, I believe there's a budget ordinance.
An ordinance to amend the FY 2023 operating and capital budget for Athens-Clarke County, Georgia, so as to provide funding from the American Rescue Plan, ARP, Coronavirus State and Local Physical Recovery Funds for affordable housing Phase 1 programs and for other purposes.
Roll call beginning with Commissioner Hamby.
Hamby,
Yes.
Davenport,
Yes.
Link,
Yes.
Benson,
No.
Hool,
No.
Edwards,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
5 yes, 2 no.
All right, so as a ordinance unable to attain 6 votes, this have to be reconsidered at a future date. Okay, all right. Do want to go back, I apologize, I neglected to have you read the ordinance for number 2, Attorney Drake, so just for procedural confirmation, could you read that ordinance, and then I'll have everybody reconfirm that vote for item 2.
Mayor, may I ask a point of order question?
Point of order, Commissioner Hamby.
So if it passed 5-2, that means in January, if you're on the prevailing fifth side, you could make a motion to reconsider. Is that correct?
That's my understanding of reconsideration on the prevailing side.
Okay, thank you.
I read the number 2.
Number 2.
An ordinance to amend the FY 2023 operating capital budget for Athens-Clarke County, Georgia, so as to provide grant funding if awarded from the Georgia Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, CJCC, Stop Violence Against Women Act, VAWA competitive grant program for expenses related to 4 investigator positions and a records clerk directly supporting efforts to prevent and reduce crimes of violence against women and for other purposes.
All right, thank you, and just to confirm, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, moving on to 3. This is item 4. This is a Stop Violence Against Women grant for the Clerk of Court's office. And entertain a motion regarding this item.
So move.
Second.
All right, I've got a motion from Commissioner Hamby, second from Commissioner Myers. This comes with a budget amendment. Is that an ordinance as well?
An ordinance to amend the FY 2023 annual operating and capital budget for Athens-Clarke County, Georgia, so as to provide grant funding from the Georgia Criminal Justice Coordinating Council for 1 full-time position and associated expenses to support case processing and domestic violence cases and for other purposes.
Thanks, Judd. Any comments regarding this, either from the motioner or seconder? Any from other members of the body? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries unanimously. All right, moving on to 5. This is a grant from the same source, but for the Solicitor General's office.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion from, apologize, from Commissioner Edwards. Second was Commissioner Hamby. All right. Ordinance budget regarding this.
An ordinance to amend the FY 2023 annual operating capital budget for Athens-Clarke County, Georgia, so as to provide grant funding from the Georgia Criminal Justice Coordinating Council for 2 full-time positions and associated expenses to support domestic violence cases and for other purposes.
All right. Any input regarding this item? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? All right, hearing none, motion carries unanimously. All right, item 6 is a Government Operations Committee report regarding short-term rentals that would do 2 things. I'm going to turn this to Commissioner Denson so you can describe what this would do. You might also want to speak to kind of this question of continuity of use too, because I know that came up.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So with this recommendation, I'd say there's really 3 components. One is, to put out an RFP for us to get a contractor that would be a third-party compliance contractor that would kind of comb the data and locate and track where short-term rentals are occurring and operating, so that we can kind of track them and regulate them and ensure that all of these are paying the proper taxes and fees, plus so that we can make sure that they are, operating correctly as if we do have any kind of regulation that goes through in any ordinances. The other two components are kind of the zoning components, in which one of them will be changing our home occupation use so that it'll allow for anybody in their primary dwelling, whether that is a renter or a homeowner, that they can operate basically a part-time short-term vacation rental as a home occupation, going through our normal home occupation license process. And so with that, it really allows people anywhere in our county, whether that's in a single-family neighborhood or anywhere else, to be able to operate one as a home occupation as long as it's in their primary dwelling. But again, that could not be a permanent full-time. And that we would have moving forward, if ADUs are to exist, we'll give the option that a homeowner could be doing their primary dwelling or an accessory dwelling unit that is on their property, one or the other, but not both. And then the third component, which is also a zoning component, basically has us operate in basically in RM, commercial settings, a few other zoning codes, allowing the operation of full-time short-term vacation rentals, but those will be regulated in the same way that bed and breakfasts currently are. And there will still be a required zoning application process that will be done through the planning committee also, ensuring that those are operating correctly. So that still allows full-time short-term vacation rentals to exist, just it really won't be happening in single-family neighborhoods. This will allow grandfathering in of existing short-term vacation rentals that are already operating and that consistently operate.
Term rentals in owner-occupied, homestead exempted or renter-occupied properties is still is part of this. Say if you own a home, you use a room as a short-term rental or a basement apartment or whatever, or if you rent that house. And so, okay, I just want to make sure that's clear. So people who live in their own homes can rent a portion of those homes as Airbnbs at will, through, as long as they register and do. Yeah, the fees and the registration and all that. And I know we also discussed a possible provision, but I think this might have made the whole thing more complicated, to allow by right at will short-term rentals if there were under a certain number of days per year. Is that correct? Did that ever make it in? I didn't see anything.
We didn't look at the number of days as part of
I
this
think-
final. I think as a GOC, y'all tossed that around as a
Yeah.
potential, but we moved beyond that in the final two meetings.
Because that's something that might come up just from people who just very irregularly take advantage of that.
I think as the
home occupation license.
Yeah, I guess so. I think there might be some ways around it. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I know it's a lot and it's complex, but I also look forward to hearing the Planning Commission's discussion of it moving forward.
Commissioner Myers.
A question here on the process and procedure that we're voting on. When we pass this, and then I have a question about what Tim read, the substance as well. When we pass this on to the Planning Commission, are we giving them leeway to tweak this in all sorts of way, or is it just what we're passing on through what Commissioner Denson just reviewed with us?
Yeah, and in fact, in GSC discussion, I think Planning Director Griffin was explicit that there may be some elements of this that get some finessing, and it may ripple through other pieces of Athens-Clarke County's local ordinance as well, so.
Okay, in terms of the substance of it, I guess it doesn't matter because we'll get something back on here, but I was looking through all the text to find the area on the business license part in this long attachment here, but I assume that will be followed through on. I am curious about the grandfathering in and whether there will be a business license required for those people. I know I was Airbnb-ing a rental that I was in with the owner who was a friend, and this is in fact exactly what I thought I was supposed to be doing. I went down to get a business license, and they were like, no, you can't do that because it's not a business. And so, in fact, we're doing what I thought was the thing that we should be doing in requiring this business license. But for the people who are having them already, do they have to get the business license?
I don't know, Major
Yes.
Williams, Attorney Drake, if we
That's
moved into this
grandfathered.
home occupation environment and you were in a single-family neighborhood,
It's my understanding they would, have to have that moving forward.
Well,
to
it's
be in
currently
compliance.
required.
It is. Oh, it's currently.
It's currently required. So, and also, and this is a common misnomer, so it's not really a business license, it's an occupation tax. And so if you're someone who has a short-term rental, say in your backyard or part of your house, you are currently required to go to the finance department and pay the fee for an occupation tax. And that can be, and occupation tax is based on number of employees, so a homeowner might go and put one employee and pay it, and there's a certificate that they have, and they're required to have that in order to do these things. But we don't have a good way to check that or verify that, which is where, yeah, go ahead.
And there's very few people that have actually done that, but that was included the last time the GOC worked on this in 2020.
Well, it
So
might
those
have
are
been-
the two
It might have been
requirements
just
now.
before that. And does this address in any way homes that are being used in, so there's nothing in here for the home that is in a single-family area right now and has, Airbnb, full-time Airbnb business going on with, 15 people maximum in there, and that's only the house is being used for that. So we cannot deal with that. That's correct?
Well, those type locations, if they've been used continuously, are grandfathered into the provision. So grandfathered in, would be grandfathered under this, and as long as they continue to operate in accordance with regulations,
Okay.
then they can be allowed.
And if y'all approve this when it comes back from the planning commission, then that would no longer be allowed, but those that have been doing it could
Right.
still do it. So I don't know if you're talking about current or future.
No, I'm talking
state.
about the ones that exist that are.
Currently,
yeah.
And to clarify, Assistant Manager Edwards, to be grandfathered, then you would need to have held an occupational tax certificate.
We're
I
not
don't
taking
know.
that position, no.
No.
Okay. Okay.
It will be easier for us to know who has it moving forward,
Yeah.
but that, in consultation with the attorney's office, we can't require that as a criteria for having been grandfathered in.
you can live in Texas and run for the Senate, you can grandfather your Airbnb. All right. Any other input from members of the body?
All in favor?
All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, hearing none, motion carries. Good job, everyone.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Public Information Office informed me that I read the ordinance for item number 3, that I actually read the ordinance header for number 7. So if we could go back and let me read the one for number 3.
Let's do that, if you could read
All right.
the one correct.
So this is for item 3. An ordinance to amend the FY 2023 operating capital budget for Athens-Clarke County, Georgia, so as to provide grant funding if awarded from the Georgia Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, CJCC, Byrne Justice Assistance Existing Local Project Grant Program for expenses related to 4 investigator positions, directly supporting efforts of the Northeast Georgia Drug Task Force and for other purposes.
All right, and so that was for item 3. All right, we did the roll call on that again with Commissioner Hamby as the motioner, so we'll just go around a second time.
This is the one for the Drug Enforcement Task Force.
Correct.
CJCC. Yeah.
Hamby,
Yes.
Davenport,
Yes.
Link,
Yes.
Benson,
No.
Poole,
No.
Edwards,
Yes.
Myers.
Yes.
5 yes, 2 no.
All right,
Mr.
appreciate
I
the
want to go
catch.
back. In relation to the
Reconsideration.
No, to the, relation to the Airbnb and the issue of grandfathering, I was not aware that we required a license for those currently. I'm happy to go back and look at that issue, but, so I want to caution what I said, just to, we certainly can look at that issue, but I'm glad so I want to be careful about that. What I said, I said that we couldn't do that, but I was saying that in your assumption. It's been my understanding from talking to Sherry that we did not have we weren't requiring those to be registered at this point and pay occupation tax, so that might change things, but we'll look at it. I'll certainly look at that further. I mean, this matter's got to go through planning and all that, so we can certainly look at that.
All right, thanks for committing to some additional research. I appreciate that, Judd. All right, item 7 is the American Rescue Plan Act Affordable Housing Phase 1 funding recommendations. And as I noted to this body, and as you see on the first page of that item in your packet, I've presented a proposal that would take all the staff recommendations and both add some funds from ARPA contingency to our affordable housing bucket, and then pull in for approval those 2 projects that staff rated at an 80 or above, in addition to those ones that were in the staff report that we saw at the session a week ago. So
So move.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
All right, I've got a motion for that from Commissioner Link, second from Commissioner Hamby. Can you read that ordinance?
Yes, which I've already read, but I'll
Yes.
read again. An ordinance to amend the FY 2023 operating capital budget for Athens-Clarke County, Georgia, so as to provide funding for the American Rescue Plan, ARP Coronavirus State and Local Physical Recovery Funds for affordable housing Phase 1 programs and for other purposes.
Appreciate it. Commissioner Link, any follow-up questions?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, for pulling together this proposal. Commissioner Hamby and I had some conversation about it, and I had spoken with Mr. Smith too, and gotten information from staff, and it was clear that there was some odd irregularity in the citizen committee voting, and so it only makes sense to revisit these projects, and it's obvious that the East Athens Development Corporation project, but rated very high, and they have an innovative program that goes beyond affordable housing, but also into some wealth building, which will be really interesting to see how that works for that community.
Commissioner Hamby?
Yes, sir. Appreciate you putting that together.
Yeah. Commissioner Denson?
Thank you, Mayor. I talked to the manager's office earlier today and inquiring about some of the ARPA housing funds that we had previously put towards the eviction prevention program, which of course weren't spent because of us ceasing that program. And we have over $800,000 still remaining in those funds that were intentionally allocated for the eviction prevention program. So I'm going to put forward a CDO that simply allocates those funds, and I'll just read it right here. So I agree with everything that's in the components already that's on the floor, so this will just be on top of that. To direct the manager to produce and release an RFP structured around the previous eviction prevention program that will utilize $800,000 of the remaining ARPA funds previously allocated to the eviction prevention program. Approval of an applicant will come back before this body for approval no later than March 7th. If the commission finds there is no appropriate responsive applicant to the RFP, then the remaining ARPA funds will be placed back into the ARPA contingency bucket. So it's the same exact thing that's already on the floor, just with that on top of there, so that we can see if there's a potential for us to move the eviction prevention program forward again if there is a responsive applicant, and if not, that money will go back into the contingency.
All right, I've got a substitute motion from Commissioner Denson, second from Commissioner Hamby.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. Any further input?
I would just say eventually the commission would have to approve an ordinance to move those funds, but just let that be known.
Okay. Appreciate that. All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, thank you, everyone. I appreciate everybody being nimble around our housing work, and then thank you for that, Commissioner Denson. I do want to make the note, this means that if you consider this in conjunction with the decision we made as a response to the recommendation from the Memory and Justice team a week ago, we've devoted now well over $13 million to affordable housing, considering the prior allocations involved in the North Downtown redevelopment. That's really a quarter of our ARPA dollars, and I think that's an extraordinary commitment to obviously what is an enormous community need. So appreciate everybody's ongoing work on that. I know it will mean great things to individuals in our community who will be able to find housing as a result of these decisions. All right, we're moving on to 8, T-SPLOST 2018, Project 18, the Prince Avenue corridor improvements, and this is Subproject 1, the permanent road diet approval and amendment of the project concept as embodied in the agenda report. I'd entertain a motion regarding this item.
Move to approve.
Second.
I've got a motion from Commissioner Houle, second from Commissioner Myers for approval. Commissioner Houle?
Yeah, I'm excited to do the first of what will hopefully be many changes to our infrastructure to make our community a safer, more equitable place for people to move around, regardless of how they do so. This has been a long time coming, and don't need to belabor the many great points made by many commenters tonight. I do, however, want to take a moment just to respond to some formal correspondence we got from the University of Georgia and the Clarke County School District. And just in sum, I hear those concerns, and I think that largely the work that will be done by TPW moving forward to implement this will address those concerns by making permanent some of the temporary things that are in place, and also by the community as a whole getting more accustomed to just this being the new alignment. I did have one question for staff. I'm not sure who in the room may be best to answer this, but we had some back and forth correspondence on the medians and potentially beefing those up to have a better curb, or what I would call a better curb, I guess, a slightly taller, slightly steeper curb, and maybe some other improvements around signage and paint as well. And I know there's plenty of other details people would like to talk through too. So if we approve this as is tonight, does TPW staff have the leeway to kind of see through some of those additional changes without us having to dig into those nitty-gritty details here on the floor?
Yes, Commissioner. And specifically with those pedestrian island enhancements like higher concrete curbing, new high visibility signage, staff does not believe that needs to be amended into the CDO, but rather those improvements, they will be proposed as part of the long term, the 10 to 12 month Prince Avenue improvements to be installed during the next repaving efforts. I do want to make you aware just process wise, and I know this is another process that might seem confusing to the average person, but we will be coming back to you in the next 5 to 6 months to have you approve those long-term design plans, which would include recommendations for not only those mid-block islands, but also permanent materials for the bike lane buffers, which we anticipate to be curbing as opposed to the Zikla zippers, and then stormwater improvements, intersection turn radii improvements, the closing of any extraneous access points or driveways. All of that will be coming back to you as some of the peripheral improvements, and hence the reason why we've asked you to amend the project concept to expand it from the pilot outward, but there's still some permanent fixes within the pilot that are going to be made as well. If that makes sense.
That does, thank you. And yeah, so enthusiastic to move forward with this as is, looking forward to what comes next, and just want to double down on my enthusiasm for staff to really look at ways to beef up our standards for those, medians and other protecting lanes to be as safe as possible for pedestrians and cyclists, which means essentially taller, higher curbs and brighter, bigger markings. Thanks.
Commissioner Myers, before I move on to others, you're seconder, so any follow-up?
Yeah, I wanted to thank everyone who came down here tonight to speak on the Prince Avenue project. You've all done an excellent job addressing its strengths and responding to critiques of it. We haven't had as much public comment down here on transportation issues and projects and environmental issues, and I really appreciate seeing all of you out here and hearing what you have to say. I also want to make sure we say thank you to the Prince Avenue User Group. They spent 2 years working on this, and all the staff at TPW and Tool Design. When I ran for office 2 years ago, I had 2 bullet points. I had 4. 2 of them were to make Athens more walkable and bikeable, and another one was to help with the 100% transition to clean energy. The Prince Avenue project works on both. I'm lucky enough right now to live in suburbia, in a sense, on the east side. Only because I love it, but in addition, I have great bike infrastructure that I use all the time coming downtown, and the people who live in this area of town on the west side deserve to have that as well. We're never going to get rid of cars. That's not going to happen. But what we can do to make it easier for people, whether or not they have other choices, and lots of people don't, as Bike Athens made it clear tonight, but we wanted to make it safer for people. We wanted to make it comfortable. And I think what we've also done with this is we've really transformed Prince Avenue. And as people have said or brought up, it used to be, a speedway, a way to get into town. And that area in my 35 years, I think it's more than that, in Athens, Prince Avenue is a destination itself, whether it's in the Bottle Works area or down in Normal Town. There are stores, there are shops, there are people where people can walk and bike. And now I need to just get all those stores and shops and restaurants and good places to hang out over to the east side as well. But anyway, I'm really happy to support this. It's interesting, I think other people have addressed the safety issues here, but I did want to mention that just as I did not bring up the other night, AARP, as an older member of this council, actually supports the relaning, as they do accessory dwelling units as well. They have a position paper on that. And they talk about how when you have a middle lane, you can actually it's easier for the ambulances to get through. This is also in a U.S. Department of Transportation document as well. There's a lot of technical kinks we got to work out. I trust that we will be addressing them in the short term and the long term and keep on going. And I am just really happy to see this go. This corridor has waited too long for this to happen, and I'm really proud to be part of this.
Commissioner Hamby.
Thank you, Mayor. And I do plan to vote for this, and I know this has been a long discussion even before I was on the commission. I think y'all addressed it when you started, Mayor.
Even before.
I do, however, want to share just some thoughts on it. I mean, I think if we're using this as a model for ways we can do this in other areas of town, that we do need to pay attention about how it looks. And perhaps as TBW is looking at this over the next 5 to 6 months, maybe they can address some of the aesthetics of it. It looks, Prince Avenue is such a nice street, a beautiful street, and with a lot of historic properties about it. So I just want to make sure that, as was mentioned from the podium tonight, that we do pay attention to making sure that it's not only safe, but also looks aesthetically as a corridor coming into town. I'll point to, an example I've seen recently is in Decatur, Georgia, where they have the bike paths that are separated, but they have the concrete curbing that affords them to be able to put some plants into the concrete in between the bicyclist and the drivers. So I don't know, stuff like that to look at and see. I know that may cost more money, but I think it's worth it in the long run to do it right, so that people can will find ways to like it and want us to be able to do it elsewhere around town. And I hope also, like Commissioner Hull brought up, that we can address some of the concerns that were brought up from those that don't want this to happen, and see what we can do to accommodate, or answer the questions about emergency vehicles and such as that. I do think the zippers, I hope we move away from the zippers. I think those have created a bit of consternation, and more towards the curbing that I think TPW and staff are going to maybe be recommending in 5 to 6 months for a long-term plan. So thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Link.
Yeah, as somebody who has lived along the Prince Avenue corridor for most of my almost 30 years in Athens, 20 now in Boulevard and 5 or so in Normal Town, I've been part of this conversation to calm Prince Avenue, to make it more bike-friendly for most of those 20 years, and some of us thought this day would never come. It kind of feels a little surreal. But it's also been transformative to me in my regular commute back and forth to campus to work. I am able to safely get from my house all the way to campus, riding mostly on bike lanes, and through neighborhood streets, without encountering cars. Before, my commute did take me down a stretch of Barber Street, which was a little heady, and then down some steep hills that were kind of hard to scoot back up on my way home. This has really been transformative for a lot of people, and I've heard zero negative feedback from my constituents. In fact, the feedback has been massively overwhelmingly positive from the community. It is disappointing that we've had these, institutional entities object to it, but quite frankly, it's not surprising. UGA didn't show a whole lot of deference to community safety in the height of the COVID pandemic, so it doesn't surprise me that they wouldn't have much consideration for general community safety when it comes to bike and pedestrian safety of our general community members. And I will say the one time that I did have a kind of heady encounter on my commute was when I was actually walking my scooter across the Grady Street parking lot, and someone was coming out of the CCSD parking lot, turning right and not looking where they were turning, which is a common thing for people to not look where they were turning. That's exactly how my mother got hit in a crosswalk by a pickup truck. So that is driver fault. It is up to the drivers to pay attention where they're going and to see who's coming at them, and to pay attention to the infrastructure. And anybody who's hit one of those Zika Zipplers, that's driver fault. That's failure to maintain a lane. And I believe that Michael Ruppersberg, a local attorney, did an excellent job of debunking every single issue that was brought up in that UGA letter and in the CCSD letter. There was a whole lot of misinformation and exaggeration in those documents. And you'd think that it was just this massive chaos out there if you were to read those documents literally. It's not. As all the people who came out here to speak tonight and the dozens and dozens of people who have contacted us by email, it is a calmer, much safer street, and it has completely transformed the community. And, studies say that the economic benefits will come soon enough as people begin to use the street more and more and are more likely to stop at those businesses. I certainly have patronized Daily Groceries a lot more on my commute to and from work.
Commissioner Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was inspired by one of the members of the public who was talking about growing up in Athens and was able to safely ride their bicycle to the intramural fields. I think that's really been a motivation for me on this commission to push for more safe places for children and the elderly to navigate, to develop that sense of independence. And I hear the concerns about aesthetics, and I guess my response would be, well, let's just put a line of curb all the way down. This is something we've talked about with staff for months now. The key is protection. The key is protective infrastructure, that physically blocks cars from hitting people, motorists from driving their cars into people. And I think, I hear the concerns about popping tires on the zippers, but I guess I'm just more concerned about the person on the bicycle who was struck and killed a few months ago, right outside the pilot area. I'm concerned about the person who walks across Atlanta Highway every 6 months and gets killed in this community. The person out on Highway 129 by the Space Kroger who was walking and was struck and killed. I hope that we can really adopt what we're doing here on Prince Avenue and do it countywide. Every area that we have a bike lane, we should just go ahead and put a curbed delineator that protects that lane and just get it done. Just build the concrete forms and put it down so that we can finally have a legitimate network of what I would call a bicycle lane, an alternative mobility lane, because a stripe on the road is just, it's a zero to me. It's an absolute zero. It's worse than anybody who rides and walks around this town knows. I mean, every time I ride with my son, I have a close call. Every day that I ride. And it's gotten to where my son he don't want to ride anymore. He don't want to ride to school. He don't want to ride home because he sees cars turning every which way and we have to navigate through. He gets scared. So I think Prince is like the first step. I'm sorry it took 17 years. It took us 17 years to get through the cemetery to connect the Greenway. It took 17 years to get the Firefly to Winterville. I'm hoping it won't be another 17 years for us to get the next real bicycle path in this community.
Commissioner Davenport.
Thank you, Pastor Edwards. First, I had some issues with this pilot project, but just listen to the residents and the fact that last year we had over 20 traffic accident deaths, over 20. The community went into an uproar over 7 cop shootings, but no uproar over 20 people being killed by cars. So it's a safety issue. It's not like the zippers. I'd rather someone have a pop tire than to kill someone by running over a curb concrete structure. But I think this improves the safety of the residents of Athens and for visitors. Aesthetically, I mean, it's just a road. You're just going from point A to point B. I don't care about the aesthetics. I care mostly about the protection of the people who bike and who cycle through this area. But I did have some issues because of the Byrne shows. That was burning in the back of my mind, and I was like, oh God. But I think this is going to be healthy for our community.
Very different outcome. Commissioner Denson.
Thank you, Mayor. And yeah, I'll just join everybody else has said here. I do want us to take a special moment to just thank all of the people who've been advocating for this for decades, because I know since I've lived here in Athens, not only have I seen the advocacy, but I've heard about the history of it from before I lived here. And honestly, this wouldn't have happened without all of y'all. Just keeping this, change takes a long time sometimes, frustratingly so. But because y'all saw it through, it's actually happening. And I think the results of that is going to be the safety of our residents and the encouragement for alternative mobility to happen on this corridor. With that being said, I do have 2 things that I'd just like to bring up to staff as they look into these improvements further. One, and I know it was brought up before, the delivery trucks parking on Prince, especially in the, what would that be? Yeah, westbound lane. I have seen this, and it is problematic. I also know it's illegal. And so I want to make sure that, and it's also happening outside of the pilot program. Actually, I just saw it today in front of, I think in front of Normaltown somewhere. And so I just want to make sure that we can make sure that we're enforcing that, because it is definitely dangerous to have those trucks it's not downtown. They shouldn't just be parking in the middle of a lane. And then the other thing is in regards to the CCSD entrance on Prince there is the median kind of goes right in front of the exit of the CCSD offices. I wonder, while these things are looked at in improvements as we make this permanent, if that can be looked at, that the median can be moved even just a few feet so that left-hand turns can happen safely without, right now what's happening is cars kind of doing a weird little S to get out, which is definitely not safe. So if we could have improvements there, if that's possible, especially if we're working on the medians at all. Outside of that, this is fantastic, and I am excited to see this move forward and be an example for all the zeros we have out there in our community to make those zeros some heroes. So, yeah.
I just want to offer great appreciation to the tool design group, to our transportation public works staff. This was a great example of a thoughtful and iterative process with everyone consistently looking for the best version, and still tonight and in these next few months, when we come up with a iteration that's going to occur after repaving, looking for the very best version and not thinking, we've got Exhibit A and that's static and that's it forever. And that really has gotten us to where we are. I mean, in the same way that just this body's support for the creation of Athens in Motion as a plan and as a resident input body we're now looking not just at one project, we're really looking at a gridded, connected network. I think I mentioned in the context of the meeting last week that it's only a matter of time before you'd be able to be on Jefferson River Road and safely get on foot or bike to the Holland Youth Sports Complex, and from that point to Chase Street or Barber Street, and down to Prince Avenue, and over to the Greenway on the North Coney River. And so that's exactly the kind of thing that's going to continue to make this a town of vitality and interest for those folks who are here all the time and those folks who are visiting. So please pass along Manager Williams to staff that I think they've done an exemplary job and have learned from some of these other projects that we dove into, like the Barnett Shoals project several years ago.
I was just going to say, in reference to Commissioner Denson's points, which I think are valid, we should take a look at our parking and loading zones in tandem with the long-term development, and I'll work with staff on that.
All right. Motion on the floor from Commissioner Houle and a second from Commissioner Myers. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I hear none. All right, we're going to move on to item 9. 9 is a resolution to approve and authorize the settlement of a claim of the estate of Henry Faust. Attorney Drake, do we have an ordinance associated with that settlement?
No, just
No ordinance, all right.
So moved.
Second.
I've got a motion from Commissioner Hamby, second from Commissioner Edwards. Any further input?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Edwards?
Ready to go.
Any others from the body? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, similarly, moving on to 10, this regards the GP Enterprise Incorporated settlement.
Move to approve.
Second.
I've got a motion from Commissioner Edwards and a second from Commissioner Hamby. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, hearing none, motion carries. All right, all business being complete, we're going to receive report from myself, then from the manager, the attorney, and then to close out from commissioners. Just want to thank everybody who came out tonight. I mean, it was noted that just moments ago, we saw approval of a project for which residents have been advocating for 20 years, actively advocating for 20 years, not just conceptually having conversations over beer, but actively advocating in this room. And we had a couple of those folks who were in this room 20 years ago here tonight. So I think it demonstrates the strength of the community that we've all served. And tonight, of course, is the last meeting for this iteration of this body. And I think anyone would note that the last 4 years have been a very interesting time to be in any line of work, particularly elected policy making. And I want to offer my greatest appreciation for those members of the body who've been here over the course of the last 4 years. You know, when you get into this work, you definitely don't know all the things you're going to encounter, and nothing has exemplified that more than more than what we've lived through together. And you know, this is the greatest work that I've ever been able to be part of, and that wouldn't be true if it wasn't for every individual member of this body sitting around me. I think about the challenges, but I really think about the breadth of our accomplishments together. And of course, many of those are outward facing. The fact that we've managed really the largest economic development projects in the history of this government, and simultaneously managed the largest human services projects in the history of this government. And those things really are interlocking and intertwined. But we've also looked internally at how we could support this organization as the strongest possible organization that supports its own, that shepherds its own into even better places. And that wouldn't be possible without the sometimes difficult but really significant conversations that we've had here in this room, sometimes under the picnic pavilion at Sandy Creek Park, and in so many other places throughout this community. But I do want to note that as a foundational matter, the work each of you have done have made human lives better in Athens-Clarke County. And I have every confidence that what all of you are going to be doing next year is going to continue to make that so. So I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I do want to note that we have 3 members that are moving on to other endeavors, and I have something to provide for them. And so for Commissioner Edwards, Commissioner Denson, and Commissioner Link.
PlayStation.
This is but a small token, but this community recognizes that each of you have done so much. So I want you to be able to take this plate to your home and forever remember that you ably served Unified Government of Athens-Clarke County and all its 130,000 residents. So,
Mine's a cookie cake.
Commissioner Link, Commissioner Denson, Commissioner Edwards, I'd like from just everybody in the room, round of applause for their service. All right, and there's going to be a public celebration in January, so be looking for information about that in about the next week. So I'll make that fully public on all the social media portals out there. I want to go ahead and turn it over to Manager Williams.
I'm always loath to follow an eloquent and gift-bearing mayor, but I feel like it's important at this time of transition to really recognize incredibly hard work of this commission and your staff. I'm certain anyone who is not a commissioner cannot fully fathom how all-encompassing this job is. And I want to say that from my seat, every single commissioner, and there have been disagreements, and let me say there's supposed to be disagreements, that's what government's supposed to do, has put their heart and soul into this work, and I'm appreciative of that. It's something to work very close alongside that. Folks coming with different ideas about what Athens should look like, and I salute Commissioners Denson, Edwards, and Link as you depart, and I've sincerely enjoyed working with you. I also would like to recognize your award-winning staff at this year. It's been an incredible year, incredible couple of years. And during your governance, as the mayor alluded to, you've navigated a pandemic, significant social upheaval, all sorts of new ideas and concepts. It's been an interesting time. But your staff, whether it's an individual like Lavoris Huff winning the National Swana Rodeo for solid waste, or a collective group of folks like Leisure Services winning best in class for their size in our state, the best in the state. And there's many other awards I won't go into. They perform brilliantly. And I'm going to give you 3 examples. The first is that this staff has maintained consistent quality service delivery in the face of historic vacancies that we have that's occurring all over the country. And why they've done that, and to the mayor's point, they have brought to fruition such long-standing projects. The mayor mentioned, and the pilot, or the Prince Avenue was at 17 years. Well, Clayton Street was at 17 years. The cemetery that Commissioner Edwards, that's been at least 10 plus since I've been here. The Trail Creek Bridge, I remember, this is my 10th year. I remember having that discussion about what that's going to look like. Will it be the old trestle? Will it be the new trestle? It's being constructed as we speak, and in February, hopefully we'll walk across it. They've jump-started 2/3 of a 13-year SPLOST program, SPLOST 2020, in these past 2 years. And I will say that's why the meetings have gotten longer, because we're doing more of that. We've replaced operational software, stuff that you or the public don't see. It's very disruptive to workflow when you're trying to do all those things. A new plans review software, over 10 years old. A new enterprise resource platform, a ERP. All the financial transactions, getting close to $250 million that happen every year, have to go through this system, and that got implemented this year while we all were focused on other things. And I think the staff that's been involved in that, and all the staff that's had to endure that change and maintain their workflow is notable. We successfully negotiated once every decade, we're going to revisit it in 5 years, a sales tax agreement with our partner governments here in Athens-Clarke County, and I think that's notable. So our staff, in addition to keeping that consistent quality service delivery in the face of vacancies and bringing to fruition a number of projects that are a long time coming, they have also moved this particular group of folks' initiatives forward, many of which are new ground for this government. There have been extremely, and Commissioner Myers alluded to this just in terms of the arena, well, that's not the only complicated partnership we've entered into this year. Really, in my time here, I've never seen this many outside investment partnerships with external entities, and so I'll read some of them to you. So it's not just the arena, it's also Bethel. It's the Athens Neighborhood Health Center, if you remember that. It was the food bank. It's Advantage in their new mental health facility. It's the library, and it's the West Side Youth Development. And these are all things that they're not just, we copy last year's agreement and put it in here. Those are things that had to be negotiated and worked through. And it took your understanding as well. If you didn't know, we did start an eviction prevention program as well as stood up a homeless camp, which I have a lot of folks from around the state asking me, how did you do that? We've begun countywide conversations, even strategic planning on some of the most pressing problems facing this community. Not just one, but most of them. The broadband, youth development, workforce development, mental health, affordable housing, of course, and homelessness. So these are all things that are happening in this 12-month span of time that we're saying goodbye to. But I want to thank y'all for your verbal support of our staff and your voting support of our staff by investing in them in this year of inflation for some extra compensation and benefits and extra time off, which meant the world to them. And so I thank you for your service. I thank our staff for our service. And without each other, we can't get anything done. So thank you very much. And commissioners, I'll miss working with you.
Thank you, Manager Williams. All right, we're going to go to Attorney Drake.
Well, I too just want to say thank you this evening to all the commissioners for the opportunity to work with you each year. To special note, Commissioners Denson, Edwards, and Link, who will be, this will be our last meeting unless something comes up, which it might. But it has been, I just want to say it's an honor and pleasure to represent the unified government as the county attorney. I enjoy working with each one of the commissioners. Manager Williams very eloquently talked about the large volume of work that this government has undertaken in the last, since I've been here. Seems like it started, but that's it makes it challenging. It makes it exciting. But I just want to say thank you to all the commissioners and the mayor. Mayor, I don't want to leave you out, but I wish those who are departing best wishes, and I'm sure our paths will cross again. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Attorney Drake. All right, I want to begin with Commissioner Houle, and we'll circle around, end with Commissioner Denson.
Oh boy, glad I can get my fumbling out of the way first. I guess as an aside, we received your veto today, which I was not surprised by. I'm cautiously optimistic about the language at the end, that you plan to try to see it forward in some way, and I just hope that whatever way that does move forward includes that worker empowerment element, not just a venue for airing complaints. But yeah, pretty unfortunate circumstances that led to the transition of this body that we're about to see, but I think there's some silver linings there for the way forward. I think if the last couple of years have taught us anything, it's resilience, which is the overused word of the year or the decade, perhaps. And I think you all have really demonstrated it. When I first joined y'all in this body, we were all squares on a screen, and we've gradually gotten back into human space, and I do think that the groundwork that you all have been a part of laying is deep. I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. So I look forward to getting to know some new folks in the coming year who I think also have genuine hearts and minds for the work, and we'll see how that all goes. But I did really want to praise, I think this is a mix of colleagues and staff that the manager spoke to. The way that this government, in my view, has been truly transformative, has finally become we've finally become a community that as a government does things first and isn't always just looking to repeat stuff that's been tried and true by other communities for years or decades, while also catching up on a lot of things that people have talked about for 17 years, while also navigating a pandemic and a record level workforce challenges. But the ability to kind of hold both immediacy and long-term thinking, I think that's something that staff does incredibly well, and I think it's something that this body and y'all who are on your way out have done incredibly well. A lot of times it's the immediacy stuff that gets the most attention, and the long-term stuff happens really quietly. The contentious stuff gets a lot of attention, but the stuff we pass unanimously, which is most things every month, doesn't get much attention. We are basically the first community in the South to put money towards reparations. We passed that unanimously last week, and no one's talking about it because we argued about some other stuff. We've done amazing things as a community. The record investments in housing, at least for this community and a community of this size. The way that this body responded to COVID and staff brought in all these people from all these different arenas to try to see that through, it was a series of unanimous decisions. And so I think I've gained a lot of respect for the process that includes all of that unanimity in addition to the healthy debate that we've fostered here too.
Commissioner Edwards.
Well, thanks, Mr. Mayor, for this cool platter. I will think of you as I fill it up with cashews and enjoy myself throughout this winter holiday. Yeah, I'm definitely going to miss being back behind this rail and a part of this truly awesome government. I mean, I think as Manager Williams said, we've really been a tremendously productive force this past 4 years, especially for those who've been, watching along for longer than 4 years. We've done a lot of incredible work, and I'm going to miss, crafting the compromises and making the phone calls and cutting the deals and getting all that stuff going. It's been a lot of fun. And but a new chapter starts, and hopefully those deals will keep being made because, as time got closer to my sunset, those deals just got harder to come by. So perhaps it's time for me just to ride on. But Manager Williams, it's been great fun working with you and your staff, and I think you really paid a nice tribute to staff. That's been one of really the highlights, getting to know the great people that work for this government in every department. They really help enable the work that we do, and even the Prince Avenue project that we took on tonight. I just know that, years being behind here, talking about the need for protection through these lanes, that really resonated among the staff. And so I feel like they really put their best foot forward to make it happen. And now we've got a unanimous decision. We're moving forward. So thanks for all your work, and thanks, Judd, for all the great conversations we have, attorney to attorney, figuring out how this thing's gonna work. Those have always been fun. And thanks, Mayor, for, you've been a great mayor because you get things on the agenda, It's been some eras in this government we've seen a drought where some of these ideas they never percolated onto this paper to allow discussion among this body. So I salute you, sir, for unleashing the creativity of this great government to discuss these matters and to pass these matters into policy. So you have wielded your authority justly, and it's resulted in just results. So thank you for picking up the phone, having conversation, and allowing these policies to come. Commissioner Hool, I'm going to be watching your progress as you navigate, daddyhood and work on the commission. And I'm impressed by your diligence. For those who don't know, every meeting, Commissioner Hool's over here taking notes on everything that's said. So he Jesse takes this thing seriously. So I tip my hat to you. Commissioner Myers, keep pushing. I think Commissioner Hool's notes might be matched by your notes. I got two just extreme note takers right here on either side of me. I mean, they're just taking this job so seriously. So it's comforting. I can lean on y'all to help guide me because you've got the records here. So thank you for taking this job so seriously. Commissioner Davenport, I thank you for the courage you've shown on some big ticket items over the past 4 years. I know this isn't an easy job, balancing with a full-time work commitment and everything else, so thank you for your service. Commissioner Link, we've been coming to these meetings for many years, and perhaps you might be coming back into these meetings behind the rails, so I salute you and your diligence to represent this community with the utmost faithfulness to the cause. Commissioner Denson, thank you for your diligence and crafting a lot of these policies that passed over the past 4 years. I know that you worked hard over some nights to actually put together these words on paper that we passed. So thank you for putting in that effort to present things for us to consider and pass. So, and finally, Clerk Spratlin, thank you for being the rock that we have leaned on throughout our service and providing the information we needed and a helpful ear on the other end of the phone whenever we had a problem. Your graciousness and durability to serve this government is much appreciated. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
This is getting emotional here. I just want to, there's staff and all of you out there who are all wonderful and stuff, but I really just want to focus my remarks on the commissioners who we are saying goodbye to tonight. A year ago, this is 2 years that I'm on the commission. A year ago, I never would have imagined that we'd been saying goodbye to you all. And I commend you for the work that you've continued to do and the good attitudes and faith that you've shown during this year I cannot imagine how tough it's been for you to not have had the opportunity to run again, as we all thought you'd be able to do. It's pretty, you get a certain closeness, and I taught classes forever. I was always have these closeness with people over my 10 weeks or my 12 weeks, and you just felt so close. And then the next term was gone, and it was like you had that close period, and then it moved on to another entity, another thing in your life. And so it makes me a little teary-eyed thinking about Melissa and Tim and Russell moving on here and away from this group that we've been working with. I feel so much more confident in the work that I do now because I've been working with all of you and had so much support. I've been out there in the audience for much longer than I've been here, and I've seen Melissa's red hair out there and her strong views and a lone progressive in early days pushing for things. And it's been wonderful working with a group of people here who I've shared so many values and causes with. And so I will miss your passion, and I look forward to the opportunity to work with you again. And likewise to Commissioner Denson, you do a lot of hard work. We're all going to have to, Patrick, me, Jesse, and the rest of us, we're going to have to step it up, get all these policies in place and such, and work hard and think about things. But you've given such a wonderful example in the dedication, the work, and to think you're moving on to the school board. I anticipate seeing you in public service for years to come, as I do with Commissioner Edwards over here, who has been a bridge between myself and Commissioner Hool as we've developed here. I was just thinking that I have the Roberts rules, the short version and the long version at home. And with Commissioner Edwards gone, I feel like I should just put them under my pillow to work on, to know these things. And I expect you to be texting regularly with advice on that, because I'm sure you'll be watching all these. I appreciate the friendship and the collegiality that we've had here together, and the work that we've done for the community. It's an honor to do this, and you get to learn so much. You get to be with people. A lot of people say, how could you do this? Like it's so stressful, and it is a little stressful. But the kind of way that you can give back to the community and make a difference, and the bonds that we have here, for better and worse, are really incredibly meaningful, and I'll miss the three of you.
Yes, all right. So I had this big speech last week, but I'm gonna try to condense it. And it was titled Changes. So when we first came on, well, let me condense it. We've seen a lot of changes over the last 4 years. The manager's office got 3 new people, 2 people. If I got that wrong, I'm sorry, but it started off with, I forget the gentleman who moved to Virginia, Robert, Deborah, so we got 2 great new managers, and Dustin, I forgot about him. We hired Judge Drake from Macon, well, we stole him from Macon. And just, we hired someone for the inclusion office, all the transformation that was done because of this body. We had seen some craziness with our police force and protester downtown. We've seen 3 police chiefs. But just look at the body of work that we have done over the past 4 years together, with our parks, our streets, our policies, our pay and compensation. A lot of people think that this commission is too progressive, too left, too crazy. I am very proud of the work that we have done together. We have transformed Athens. We made some dramatic, awesome changes to this community that my one day great-great-grandkids will be able to enjoy, and I'm quite sure your grandkids in the future will enjoy, so I want to thank y'all. I will miss the blue Crocs and the tailor suits and the parliamentarian, but I don't see it as a goodbye. I see it as a time off, because, Edwards, you have it in your blood to serve, and I can't see you down the road not serving again, so, behind the rail, these doors are always open. And Link, I love your firebrand personality. It is very commendable, and your knowledge behind departments, your knowledge behind the history, your knowledge behind planning, it's going to be truly missed. So, whenever, for the listening audience, whenever someone needs a question or wants to ask a question about planning, you go to Link, because she knows it from like the back of her hand, and her passion for downtown and the community is just very commendable. And the biggest nerd that I know, who is always reading, always researching, is Commissioner Disson. It's like, good God Almighty. I love it though, because whenever there's a new policy that we're going to talk about, or that's going to be introduced, Disson is ready. He's like, here's this. Always prepared, and that is going to be a resource that we're going to greatly miss in our coming future. So hopefully the new commissioners will step up. So, but thank y'all. We'll see y'all soon.
It's been a wild ride, y'all. I want to first of all thank my constituents, or just the general folks of the community. The greatest pleasure and privilege of this job is being part of the lives of so many different people, and getting to meet so many different people, and getting to help so many different people with, everything from cleaning the leaves out of their gutter to helping them find housing. So that really has been the real highlight of my service, and I definitely want to thank the mayor because, yes, these past 4 years have been transformative. You know, I someone who served prior to the mayor's term as mayor, I felt like those first 4 years were kind of like treading water. And, you know, we've gone through all the things that have gotten done, and it is so much. It's really been transformative work in extraordinarily difficult times. I mean, who would have thunk that we would have lived through a global pandemic and these bizarre transformative politics and social upheaval? And it's really a testament to the strength of this community and the strength and talent of our staff, our management. Blaine, I really want to thank you. I know how hard you work, and I know how hard staff works. We have some extremely talented and dedicated people working for this local government, and I can't thank them enough and relay enough appreciation for all the hard work they do. I know we're difficult. We've been really difficult many, many times, myself especially. But we have a lot to be proud of. We really, really do. You know, these past 4 years have been the most difficult of my life, quite frankly. A couple months after getting sworn into office for my second term, I was diagnosed with colon cancer. I went through 2 surgeries that year and an extremely difficult recovery. And bizarrely enough, I only managed to miss, I think, 2 meetings that year. But I was extremely grateful to have these folks behind the rail, to have these allies behind the rail who were able to pick up the slack. You know, I also had family difficulties. You know, my mother was hit by a truck and I had to spend a lot of time with her. The pandemic hit, my father's been ill, my mother-in-law's ill, my dog died. I lost 2 of my closest friends this past year. It's been just really the most difficult time of my life. But I feel like it's been productive because I've had these folks working with me side by side, hand in hand. And we really, really, really have done great work and great work to be proud of. And there's more work to do, no doubt. There is definitely more work to do, which is why I will be running for the District 2 seat. So y'all haven't heard the last of me. I'll be making an announcement after the new year. I'll be out knocking on doors. I'm sure I'll be behind that podium. So, P-Dog, keep my seat warm.
Yeah, so, man, this is a little hard. This is a little emotional. I guess I'll just get started first and foremost just with some actual business. I just want to give some appreciation specifically to all of our public art staff who have had a tough couple of weeks, but they've done a fantastic job, and I appreciate their leadership in helping us get so much amazing public art in this community. I'll also say I have my last and 22nd District 5 Town Hall, again, next Monday, December 19th at 5:30 p.m. at Normal Bar. The subject of this one is it's the end of District 5 as we know it. So yeah, it's gonna be a good time. And then I just have some words here prepared. It's been my honor to serve in this seat for the last 4 years, and though I am vacating this seat in a way that's against my wishes and through undemocratic means, I think that situation and everyone involved, it's been all well documented, and don't want to get into that. Instead, I want to leave this in a happy and hopeful way, which I am. I'm extremely proud of everything this commission has accomplished, and the challenges, some of them unprecedented, that we've all navigated together. And it's really brought us, I think, a lot of us close together. And I've absolutely loved my time to get to work with all of y'all and get to know y'all better and stuff. And you know, that all these challenges, it's been tough, but that has created all this stuff has created challenges because when you act, it creates unknowns, and a lot of times we've taken action in making tough situations for staff, things that they probably wish that we do a little different or slow down, I know, or a little bit less, as I've heard many times. But that's okay because you know, I think this body realized that when faced with injustice and when there's lack of a better term, like suffering that people in our community are going through. Those who wield power must be willing to take action. And otherwise, we'd be an accomplice to the injustice. And so when I ran, I pledged to legislate with a bias towards action. And again, I know at times that that was frustrating to some of my colleagues. Commissioner Davenport oftentimes said, we're doing too much. And certainly, again, the manager's office. But again, I think we rise to the challenges. And just with that last thing, I definitely especially want to implore this body moving forward to have the political courage to act, especially when it comes time to challenges like our housing crisis. This crisis was created by a multitude of factors, and it's going to take a multitude of solutions. And many of the solutions are only held by the government, especially zoning decisions. So we cannot wait any longer on these to act, and I hope that we do. Last, I just want to say thank you to my colleagues, and also especially to Mayor, who I think you've shown great leadership, and you've always been willing to mentor some young commissioners who had questions, just trying to figure out how the stuff works, and that's definitely helped me a lot, just to know that I could call upon you or text you or email you, and you would honestly just show me how you did things and kind of guide the way, and that was a huge help, and I really appreciate that. And thank you to Manager Williams and Manager Edwards and Manager Jones. Y'all, it's been a pleasure to work with y'all, and every step of the way, y'all, every time we threw something at y'all rose to the challenge, and it's just, I think it's, all of our staff is amazing, I'll get to that, but I think it's really important to show that tip of the spear of our staff works just as hard as I think any other staff member does, and I think that's important, the way that showed that leadership. And a huge thanks to Attorney Drake and the Attorney's Office, always willing to help out, try to figure out some way that we can get things done, and say, hey, if that's what you want to do, we'll help you. I don't know if it's going to work, but we'll help you. And I've really appreciated that, and especially to Attorney Drake, and I also want to single out Attorney Hines, who's been a huge help to me over my 4 years. And thank you to Ms. Jean for always keeping the gears of this commission moving and running. You've been just invaluable to this entire government. I don't think most people understand how much they owe you. And then last, just the staff of ACC as a whole, absolutely amazing, impressed me every single day. I genuinely wish that the constituents of Athens-Clarke County could realize how many people are working so hard for them every single day, passionately, because they care. Not because they're making bukus of bucks or have a pension, but because they actually care about this community and want to do the best for it. And I also just want to thank all of my constituents who I've served, who I've been able to befriend, debate, disagree, and make positive change with. And definitely not exaggerating when I say that Athens, Georgia is the best city in the world, and I owe a lot to it. And the people united will never be defeated. So with that, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I've got a motion from Commissioner Denson and a second from Commissioner Link. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? All right. Good night. I bid you farewell for the moment.